Recycling right. Recyclables in Palm Coast are removed once a week. You can find your service day by visiting our website or contacting customer service. Recycling materials should be placed in appropriate containers that are clearly marked as recyclable. All recycling in Palm Coast is single stream, meaning there is no need to sort different types of recycling material at home. You may place the clean plastic, cardboard, paper, and glass and metallics into one bin. Please note that all of these items need to be empty and clean. Sadly, many items made of recyclable material are often not recycled due to contamination. Contamination occurs when items that are placed in the bin with remaining food grease or debris. Moreover, many items that are collected, such as plastic straws and bags, eating utensils and pizza boxes, yogurt, and takeout containers often cannot be recycled. How to do it right. Be sure to rinse out jars and cans. Flatten and break down cardboard boxes to 2 feet by 2 feet. Most plastics numbers 1 through 7 are recyclable with the exception of polystyrene and styrofoam, which is sometimes labeled as number 5. Thanks for watching.
Hello Palm Coast, I'm Charlie Gambaro here with our project manager Tyler Gibson. He's going to give us an update on our road improvements.
Thank you, Councilmember Gambaro. Yeah, in 2024, City of Palm Coast staff, we identified a few of our key arterial roads that we were going to resurface in order to show our commitment to maintaining safer and well-maintained roads.
Excellent. Could you tell our residents about the 5-year pavement management plan?
Yeah, absolutely. We assess all of our roadways based off of the volume of the roadway, users, the condition of the roadway, and also the impact on the residents themselves, and we try to prioritize them based off of that over our course of our resurfacing program. Right now we have a microsurfacing plan. We're going to be actually doing a high-performance microsurfacing on about 30 residential roads in the city to try to keep the condition and the durability of those roads and extend the life of those roadways quite a bit.
And what does that mean for you, the residents? An increase in your property values and just a better experience overall.
So I'm here with Chief Berryhill at Fire Station 25, and we're discussing the upcoming Fire Station 22 and 26. I just want to talk to you, Chief, about how that's going to contribute to public safety in our community.
Fire Station 26 is going to be an expanded service area for our team. We're actually covering that area now, but not from the correct location. Additionally, we're going to be faster to where our residents sleep, which is where we know some of the worst and biggest problems occur, while still being able to maintain great coverage along the 100 corridor. And Station 22 is going to be an expansion of our ability to respond in our oldest kind of neighborhood here in Palm Coast. So we've been responding from a building that was never designed for 24-hour emergency services. We're going to have a much greater ability to cover that corridor based on that, and we're going to be, each of these stations is designed, intended to, with 2 things in mind. It's for our firefighters to be the fastest to our citizens, and then for them to do it in the safest way possible.
Well, Chief, we appreciate everything that your department does for our community and for our city, and we look forward to 2 beautiful new fire stations in our community.
We're really excited. It's our privilege to serve our citizens.
Thank you, Chief.
Here at the Southern Recreation Center with Project Supervisor Eric Gibo to tell us what we have for our residents to enjoy here.
We've expanded our tennis and pickleball courts through a partnership with USTA, adding clay courts, upgraded lighting, and spectator areas for both casual and competitive play.
That's awesome. I know we just hosted our first USTA tournament here at this brand new court earlier in the year. But there's more than just tennis and pickleball, right?
Absolutely. Well, here at the Southern Recreation Center, residents can enjoy our community gardens, versatile multi-purpose rooms for events, easy access to the Lehigh Trailhead, and complete with the scenic trails and a dog park.
That's great. So plus we have Redefined Food Company here at the center of everything for residents to enjoy as well.
All these amenities and enhancements yet to come are designed with our residents in mind, promoting health, wellness, and community engagement.
Thanks, Eric. So we invite you all to come visit the Southern Recreation Center and explore everything it has to offer for you.
One of our newest projects that the utility is producing is the expansion for wastewater treatment plant number 2. As the City of Palm Coast grows, we need to increase our wastewater treatment capacity. This project increases the capacity from 2 to 4.0 million gallons per day, improving the system, service, and preparing for future. Well, we're working towards enhancing our headworks, which includes a screening system, a grit removal system. We're also adding another module, another component for the membrane bioreactor system, including some reuse pumping, as well as some other appurtenances that are all associated with running the facility, including the chemical feed system. The project started in 2022, and we've completed some major work, including sludge holding tanks, and we're fully expecting the plant to be online in May of 2025.
2024 has been a milestone year for Palm Coast's economic growth. From new developments to workforce initiatives, we've made great strides in shaping the city's future. Let's take a look at some key highlights. We launched the Promenade, our first mixed-use project in Town Center, adding new residential and commercial opportunities to the heart of Town Center. Our economic landscape also expanded with Astor Defense USA selecting Palm Coast for its first U.S. manufacturing and testing facility, bringing high-paying jobs and strengthening our presence in advanced manufacturing. Workforce growth remains a priority. Our first ever Workforce Development Roundtable brought together industry leaders to address skill gaps and strengthen our local talent pipeline. We also launched the Business Retention and Expansion Program to build relationships with local employers, identify growth opportunities, and support business expansions, because keeping jobs here is just as important as attracting new ones. Our target industry feasibility study analyzed key sectors for economic growth, identifying aerospace, advanced manufacturing, clean tech, logistics, and hospitality as prime industries for expansion. With Palm Coast's strategic location, workforce, and infrastructure, we're well positioned to attract and grow these industries. We also revamped our digital presence, launching selectpalmcoast.com with enhanced property listings and workforce data, and creating our first ever economic development LinkedIn page to show Palm Coast strengths on a national scale. As Palm Coast continues to grow, we remain focused on innovation, investment, and opportunity. The future is bright, and we are just getting started.
My experience with attending the Citizens Academy was really exciting and very informative. My favorite component about the Citizens Academy was actually with the water department. I did get to learn a lot of how the city functions and a lot of the things that many folks talk about.
I was looking for something to get involved with, and when they were looking for somebody to volunteer for the Residential Drainage Committee, I decided to hold my hand in the air. We met with builders, we met with people who were in the building industry, we met with surveyors, we met with the Arbor Division of Palm Coast, Community Development Black Rat person. We met with all of those people to learn what things we might be able to offer to people who were having flooding issues.
I've been playing pickleball for 8 years. And people knew me, and then we just started talking, and they asked me, how would you like to come to Southern Recreation Center? And I was like, yeah. And then it just developed from there, and I've been really, really happy. People come to me and they don't know a thing about pickleball, and they leave and they are just so happy, and it makes me so happy. I love it. I think that's the best part of it.
My wife and I come here and play pickleball on a pretty routine basis. My kids have been in the pickleball program here for 4 months. The people here have all been very encouraging. I'm no experience with racket sports whatsoever. I came in and people were willing to let me come and learn the game alongside them, even the people who are obviously very far along and very good at it. So it's been a lot of good camaraderie here for sure.
For me, I think the biggest benefit to be involved with the city and the events is education. I think knowledge is power. As a resident here, to be someone that can be helpful and a resource to other residents around me.
We feel like we're offering a lot more than we started with, because we started with nothing. We are working as a group to find viable solutions.
It's been nice. We all can come together as a family and all enjoy doing the same thing, as opposed to, you know, kids playing video games and parents over here doing this. We're all kind of in it together, so it's been nice.
Meeting people is what it's all about in life. You know, nobody wants to be home by themselves. Nobody wants to be lonely. Everybody needs somebody. So I think you should come here.
At the City of Palm Coast Parks and Recreation, we are proud to contribute to the great quality of life we enjoy here in our city.
From our state-of-the-art facilities to our diverse roster of parks, trails, and green spaces, we aim to make our city the optimal place for recreation.
This past year saw major upgrades at several of our most prominent locations, including the Lehigh Trailhead, Waterfront Park, Ralph Carter Park, Palm Harbor Golf Club, and Southern Recreation Center.
From complete renovations to new features and amenities, these upgrades are a testament to our continued commitment to improving and enhancing recreation experiences for our residents.
New programs and events were also in abundance this past year, including our new concert series, our Pickleball Ladder League at the Southern Recreation Center, as well as the long-awaited return of the Starlight Parade at Town Center.
We also celebrated a once-in-a-quarter-century milestone during our very special 25th anniversary celebration last fall. Residents can expect more new and exciting outings this year, as well as a new spin on an old favorite, as the City of Palm Coast has adopted the annual Holiday Boat Parade, which will mark its 42nd year when it returns in December.
To the tens of thousands of residents that joined us over the course of this past year at our facilities, on our trails, and in our parks, we want to thank you for your support in playing a key role in bolstering health, fitness, and recreation here in our city.
At Parks and Recreation, we pride ourselves on creating a sense of community for our residents, who are our most valuable asset. As we look forward to the year ahead, we are excited for what's in store, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Recycling right. Recyclables in Palm Coast are removed once a week. You can find your service day by visiting our website or contacting customer service. Recycling materials should be placed in appropriate containers that are clearly marked as recyclable. All recycling in Palm Coast is single stream, meaning there is no need to sort different types of recycling material at home. You may place the clean plastic, cardboard, paper, and glass.
I can. Good morning. It is 9 a.m. We are in the John Netz Community Wing of City Hall for our City Council business meeting. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief moment of silence. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Present.
Councilmember Gambaro.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Here.
Mayor Norris.
Okay, Mayor Norris may appear electronically throughout the meeting, right? Okay. All right, this morning, before we get to public participation, we do have 3 proclamations. So for those here for Public Works, can you all please come forward? I think this might be a record for people here for a proclamation. It's pretty awesome. All right, so before I read the proclamation, I just want to, on behalf of City Council, thank every single one of you and your fearless director here. We greatly appreciate everything that you guys do every single day. You truly make the wheels turn in our city, and so we're very appreciative. So with that, whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Palm Coast. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals, who are directors, managers, supervisors, and employees at all levels of government, who are responsible for the beautification, rebuilding, waste management, litter, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest of the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Palm Coast to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that the week of May 18th through the 24th, 2025, be officially designated as National Public Works Week. Urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, directors, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions that they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Signed this 20th day of May, 2025, attested to by our clerk, Kaylee Cook, and signed by the City of Palm Coast Mayor, Michael Norris.
So thank you. My name is Matt Mansell. I'm the Director of Public Works, and like I always like to say, I am very honored to be able to represent the men and women behind me. So these are the quiet professionals that are out there every day keeping the city of Palm Coast beautiful, keeping our infrastructure up to par, and doing everything they can to make sure that our citizens' needs are met. They're quiet professionals, like I said. They don't like to brag upon themselves, so I try to do that every chance that I can. We do have a few successes that I'd like to share right now that have come up recently. We're just coming off the heels of the Touch a Truck event, and that was a huge success again this year. I believe that was our 5th year of doing that event, and every year it just seems to get a little bigger and a little better. So thank you guys for putting that on, and thank you for all the other employees that assisted. We also just found out that we got honorable mention for the 100 top fleets in America this year, so we're edging towards making the list, and we're making strides every year, and I believe this is the 2nd year that we've put in for it and gotten an honorable mention for those efforts. Also in fleet, we have our very own Jesse Guyman, who got certified this year as a Master EVT Tech, and I believe he's one of only 59 people in the entire state of Florida that have achieved that level of expertise. We've also had a lot of employees do a lot of great things this year. We've seen employees graduate the light team. We've seen employees go through multiple leadership and certification courses. We have some folks getting their spray technician certifications as we speak right now. They couldn't be here with us today because they're investing in their profession right now. So everything they're doing to make sure that as your friends, your neighbors, your family that live and work in this community, that they're keeping this city in the best condition that they can. And they truly embody our why statement of delivering excellence today and improving for tomorrow. So if you would, join me in one more round of applause for all of these great guys.
Proclamation, Make Palm Coast Healthy Day. Whereas the health and wellness of our residents is a top priority for the City of Palm Coast, and the promotion of healthy lifestyles contributes to stronger, happier, and more resilient community. And whereas the Palm Coast Flagler Health Alliance plays a vital role in this effort with a mission to empower, educate, and encourage families in Flagler County to make decisions to live a healthier and cleaner lifestyle. And whereas the City of Palm Coast, in partnership with Palm Coast Flagler Health Alliance, is hosting the Summer Wellness Jam on Saturday, May 31st, at the Southern Recreation Center to inspire families to embrace fitness, nutritious eating, and informed choices about their health. And whereas this free family-friendly event will provide engaging educational opportunities, including youth pickleball clinics, fitness classes, food safety awareness, and the special screening of the powerful documentary To Die For, which explores the risk of synthetic food dyes and the impact on children's health. And whereas the event will feature live demonstrations, interactive sessions, and a Q&A with the documentary creators, offering attendees a chance to learn, connect, and take actionable steps towards a healthier lifestyle. And whereas the Summer Wellness Jam reflects the city's commitment to fostering a culture of wellness through community partnerships, outreach, and inclusive events that empower residents of all ages. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that May 31st, 2025 be officially designated as Make Palm Coast Healthy Day, and encourage all residents to participate in the Summer Wellness Jam and commit to making choices that support lifelong health and well-being. Signed this 20th day of May 2025, attests Kaylee Cook, City Clerk, and City of Palm Coast, Florida Mayor Michael Norris.
Thank you very much. My name is Nelson Sastoki. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. Was in healthcare for about 35 years. And I am the founder of the Palm Coast Flagler Health Alliance. I want to thank, special thanks to Mayor Norris and his assistant Kendra, Acting City Manager Lauren Johnston, James Hurst, Director of Parks and Recreation, and his staff at the beautiful Southern Recreation Center. And without their support and their partnership, this would not be possible. I'd like to briefly introduce the team of passionate healthcare professionals that make up the Palm Coast Flagler Health Alliance. Dr. Nick Peel, Dr. Jenna Langendorfer, Linda Policita, Christina Morera. She's a nurse and a nutritional therapy practitioner, and I'll turn it over to her so she can give a few more brief details about our first event on May 31st.
Hello, everybody. I'll be very brief. I just, again, wanted to thank the city for partnering with us, helping this event come to fruition. This has been months of planning, and also thank you to Brittany Kershaw as well. We are all very passionate about health and prevention and wellness, especially when it comes to our families and our youth, and we really do encourage you all to please come out to our event. That's May 31st, and like he said, we're just a bunch of healthcare professionals trying to fill in this big gap that we do see every day with the lack of education, reading food labels. So we are gonna do our absolute best to help our kids thrive, to help our families thrive, and we thank you for your support, and we hope to see you there.
Would those who are receiving the ALS proclamation like to come forward? No one here for?
He couldn't be in attendance, but he's listening.
Okay. All right. Proclamation, ALS Awareness Month. Whereas ALS, commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive and fatal neurodegenerative disease that results in the brain losing connection with the muscles, gradually robbing individuals of their ability to walk, eat, and ultimately breathe. And whereas thousands of new ALS cases are reported each year, and it is estimated that every 90 minutes someone in the United States is diagnosed with ALS and someone loses their life to the disease. And whereas the average life expectancy following the ALS diagnosis is just 2 to 5 years, underscoring the urgent need for research, treatment, and support. And whereas the cause of ALS remains unknown and there is currently no known cure, making continued investment in research and clinical innovation essential. And whereas veterans are disproportionately affected, with military service members being more likely to develop and die from ALS than the general population. And whereas access to new therapies, medical equipment, and advanced technologies is critical for maintaining quality of life for individuals living with ALS. And whereas the ALS Association is the world's largest philanthropic fundraiser of ALS research, having committed over $154 million to support the 550 research projects in the United States and across 18 countries worldwide. And whereas the ALS Association remains steadfast in its mission to accelerate the pace of scientific discovery and transform ALS into a livable disease until a cure can be found. And whereas ALS Awareness Month provides a meaningful opportunity to raise public understanding, support affected individuals and families, and champion efforts to eradicate this devastating disease. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that May 2025 be officially designated as ALS Awareness Month, and encourage all residents to join in raising awareness, advocating for ongoing research, and supporting those impacted by ALS. Signed this 20th day of May 2025, attests Kaylee Cook, City Clerk, and City of Palm Coast, Florida, Mayor Michael Norris.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I just want to add on with regards to the ALS proclamation. Mr. Jin Knapp, I know you are listening, and I thank you for bringing this to our attention. Mr. Knapp is a veteran in our community and served in the Air Force, and reached out to us and asked us to bring this very important disease to light and shed recognition on it, because so many people suffer from it, and it is truly one of the most debilitating diseases I think that our community suffers with, and veterans do suffer at a greater proportion than the rest of our community. So thank you, Mr. Knapp, for bringing that to our attention and for spearheading this recognition and this proclamation. And with that, we will start public participation. Good morning, Mr. Davis.
Good morning. Good morning, council members. My name is Jeremy Davis. For over 2 years, I've been standing here asking for one thing: accountability. Here's what happened. The city approved an elevated home next to mine without proper drainage planning. After that, water started pouring onto my property every time it rained. Then Hurricane Milton hit, and my yard and home flooded. Not because of the storm itself, but because the system that was supposed to protect my property failed. I recently met with city staff. They gave me the documents that confirm everything I've been saying. The Bel Air waterway is overloaded. The pipes under Old Kings Road and I-95 can't handle the flow. And my property and others like it are in direct path of that failure. So what's the city's plan? Construction, to be determined. Funding, to be determined. Timeline, to be determined. Make it make sense. The city had time to approve that development. The city had time to ignore the impact. And now you're asking me to wait again while my home stays at risk. That's not accountability, that's passing the buck. If I told the city I'd pay my taxes, to be determined, I'd be in court. But when the city floods my yard, I'm told to be patient. Let me be clear, I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for fairness. If you can fast track permits For developers, you can fast track a fix for residents you put in this situation. I've done my part. I've showed up. I've brought documentation. I've met with staff. Now it's your turn to step up. And let's stop pretending this is some unsolvable mystery. Let's start with who approved the certificate of occupancy and go down from there. Because someone signed off on this, someone ignored the impact, and someone should be held responsible. Not someday, but now. I'm not going away. I'll be right here as many times as it takes until this city does what it should have done from the beginning. Take responsibility and fix it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good morning, Council. Vincent Liguori, Palm Coast. Allow me to present my rebuttal against parking commercial vendor vehicles in residential areas. Residential neighborhoods are designed to foster peaceful living free from the disruptions associated with commercial activities. Parking commercial vendor vehicles in driveways contradicts this purpose by introducing logistical, aesthetic, and legal concerns. The valuation of property and neighborhood aesthetics. Home values depend on the overall appearance and character of a neighborhood. Commercial vehicles create an unsightly streetscape, making the neighborhood less appealing to potential buyers and lowering property values. Safety and traffic obstruction. Parking commercial vehicles in residential driveways can obstruct visibility for pedestrians and other drivers. This increases the likelihood of accidents, especially near driveways, intersections, or sidewalks where children and pedestrians frequent. Disruption to residential zoning laws. Allowing these vehicles in driveways undermines zoning laws, setting a precedent for future violations. Many commercial vehicles operate on diesel engines, which produce more emissions than standard passenger vehicles. This results in noise, environment, and health issue complaints. Additionally, a potential for increased traffic and unauthorized commercial activity. Vendors may begin conducting business from residential properties, bringing unwanted foot and traffic congestions. This disrupts the residential setting and can lead to unauthorized business operations in the neighborhood. This proposal sets a negative precedent that will lead to the deterioration in neighborhood standards, safety, and livability. Palm Coast should enforce regulations to maintain the integrity of residential areas. Don't destroy the value of our homes. Let the citizens vote on this matter. I urge the council to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Any other public comment? Good morning, Ms. Henry.
Good morning. Wasn't here last week. I just have a recommendation about city proclamations. I forgot to say, Denise Henry, Palm Coast. Rather than have the need for proclamations before city council meetings, consider having a citywide event at the beginning of the year where all organizations, groups can set up booths so the public can become more familiar with these worthy causes. During this event, proclamations will be announced for the entire year, designating dates, months, weeks, days. If these dates are made known at the beginning of the year, then businesses can become involved in bringing awareness by recognizing the organizational group during its specific time period by possibly offering discounts or specials and even making a specific sale where a percentage of the proceeds go to that organization group. Just to hold what is essentially a photo op at a council meeting with very little public participation does not serve the organizations, their missions, and the tireless work of mainly volunteers well. As the public visits each organization's booths, they can make a donation to the organization or organizations of their choice, and this contribution can help the organization's operating budget for the year. During the event, the proclamations and photo ops can be conducted, and there will not be proclamations made after the fact, such as the February 24, 2024 meeting, where proclamations were presented for the month of January, which was human trafficking awareness and stalking awareness, and within a short time frame during the current month. That's why I have to, just my suggestion about that. And then about council meetings. Since the meetings have been long, I feel it would be a nice gesture to have bottles of water for the public if they desire or need one. At BJ's, 40 bottles of water cost $3.99. Even at 2 cases a meeting at $8, the cost would not be more than $32 a month or $384 a year. With a $40 million budget, this is very minimal, and I think something that would be nice to offer. Not everybody's going to have a bottle. We're not always going to have 40 people, but I think that's something to consider. And then the only other thing I wanted to say about commercial building or commercial vehicles in the drive. When people complain about that, they have to also realize these vehicles are usually gone from the driveway from early morning to evening, to dark. So to say that they can't park there because it's going to somehow devalue their property right, they're not even going to be there during the day, maybe on a Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Stansel.
Good morning, Mark Stansel, Seminole Woods. I brought this up once before, I think on my interview when I was interviewing for the appointment for District 3, about the fact that the city, we have 107,000 people here. We're not small anymore, and we have a very large budget, larger than a lot of cities this size, and we need to trim the fat. You know, look for places where we can conserve money and save money. Maybe there's some projects that maybe don't have to be done right now, so we could use that money for more important things. Maybe look at the staff. You know, are there positions where we're duplicating? You know, where maybe we could cut back. You know, be a more efficient city. Look at where we can save money. You really need to look at that. You know, because otherwise, you know, we're in trouble anyway. So why make it worse? Let's look for solutions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Yes, hello. My name is Igor Shapiro, Palm Coast. I live at 246 Beechwood Lane. I'm just sent a mail yesterday to the city councilor and the mayor regarding the water bill. So the issue is you vote and approve rate increase on March 18 meeting starting from April 1st. However, if you look at your bill, if you still live in Palm Coast, and you, residents of Palm Coast, increase start from February. That's what I have in my bill. And the copy of it attached to it. Unfortunately, none of you for 24 hours responded to it. It's some city employee from the Sylvia, from the, I don't know, customer service manager and Lisa, they responded to my email, but they are not a billing specialist, they are not a bookkeeping. And the argument is, we're doing this for many years. It's many years of scam. That's what it is, if that's the practice. Okay, it's violation of the accounting practice, because effective day means day when rate's supposed to start. Not in February, just because they was waiting longer than usual, and bill was issued on April 4th. By the way, the acting city manager, by your ordinance, is the person who give order to the department to proceed with that increase 49 days based on my bill, 42 days, I'm sorry, before the actual effective day of April 1st. In addition also, 6 months ago, I start conversation with the city regarding the piece of land which was grabbed by city many years ago because my house was rented and I moved to city 2 years ago. So part of the pumping station, Mr. Miller, received my email 6 months ago and he know about that issue. Nothing's going on. The answer from the Virginia Smith is that nothing we're gonna do. The simple is just somebody come in, take a measurement, make adjustment to city tax, that's it, deal done. So then I talked 2 months ago to mayor, he's not responding. So it's a complete ignorance of the Palm Coast issues what will come. Bills and property. That's what is my issue, and that's what I want to be resolved as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Good morning, Mr. McDonald.
Morning, Council. Just wanted to call to your attention here something that rarely ever happens. You heard from a gentleman up here this morning about parking, okay, Mr. Ligori. Now, Mr. Ligori is an original guy who helped to incorporate this city. He was around when the original decisions were made, and there were many meetings. There was a public, how can I say, decision that was made. It was made out on the west side at the Cattleman's Hall, or that area out there, whatever you want to call it now. Okay, so you listen, you just got some input from a very special guy, okay? He's an originator. He's not just somebody who has an ordinary opinion, okay? And I value his opinion very much because he's been here so long and all the great things that he's done for this city. So you might want to add a little bit more weight to what Mr. Ligori says. And anytime I have ever seen him for all the years that I have been coming here and going to meetings going all the way back to probably 2006 or 7 when I started getting involved in some of this. Vinny has always been a very accurate and measured voice. So, you know, what you're hearing from him comes from a lot of experience, and so I hope you all benefit by it and take it all to heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else for public comment? With that, we'll bring it back to the dais. The one question I do have for city manager based on public comment was regarding the effective date of the utility rate increases.
Yes, we bill we have the April billing date is what we used as when the rates would be effective. So anybody receiving a bill in October would have the new rates on them. That's very consistent with our previous.
Hold on, sorry, you said October?
I'm sorry, April.
Okay.
Sorry. It's very consistent with our previous practices of how we've implemented the rate adjustments. It was just recently done in October this way as well.
So what date then, from the date that somebody turns on their water, in other words, when does the increase in the rate begin?
That varies. There's different billing cycles for different places in Palm Coast. There's not one consistent day because it's when we go out and read the meters, etc. So there's, I believe, 6 different billing cycles. So we use if you received a bill in April, then the rates were applied to that bill. So it varies on the usage time.
Is that clear on the notices that we send out to the public?
I'm not sure, but I can look into that.
We need to make sure that that's very clear because I didn't know that. So I would assume that many of our public aren't aware of that as well. And council as well. I don't know if council, I won't speak for anybody, but I don't know if previous council either has been made aware of that. So let's just be very clear about that in the future.
Understood. The residents are experiencing a lot of change to the utility bills at this moment, just because of the rate increase that went into effect, and then also the direction of the transaction fees or the merchant services fees now on those as well.
Okay, thank you. Anything while you've got the mic there, any other response to public comment?
Just Mr. Shapiro mentioned his property, and we have looked into that several times. He does have an easement that's on his property, but it's not affecting his portion of taxes. It's very consistent with many, many parcels that have utility and stormwater easements on them.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Miller? No, sir. Public comment at the beginning is now closed, but we do have, you can fill out a comment card, and you can also speak with Mr. DeLorenzo. He's got his hand raised there in the back, and he's very willing to help you. Councilman Miller, any response to public comment?
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Mr. Shapiro as well, but I think that's handled, and Chief of Staff was the one that looked into the property before, so he'll be able to answer specifically those questions. Denise, thanks for the suggestion about the water. I think that's appropriate and would support that. Mr. Sansel, I have been pursuing Doge for several months now, and maybe city manager can update as well, but we had a lot of data that we had to get together in order to get that to them. We upload it to a portal, and they kind of dig through a lot of different things like projects, staff salaries, things like that. So I think a lot of those questions that you have may be answered by that, going through that process, that they would have some suggestions regarding that. But certainly we should continue to do it ourselves as well.
Did you want me to answer the Doge?
Yeah, please, if you could.
Sure. City Council, per your resolution that was adopted, everything was required to be submitted by May 16th. We did meet that deadline. All documents were submitted. I reached out to our Doge contact, Jason, and he responded to me from a brief review. It looks good, and he will let us know if there's any additional information that is needed. So we're in good standing right now.
And I just wanted to thank you and staff because it wasn't an easy lift to get all this data put together within a week or two. It was a very short timeline to try to get everything, all these files basically encapsulated and uploaded into their portal. So thank you.
All right, we'll go to this side. Councilman Sullivan.
Yeah, just as a new person on the commercial vehicles and driveways, I think it's always going to be a balancing act. And we have to be, we tried at the last meeting to be very careful about where the vehicles could be placed in the driveway. They couldn't be in the berms and things like that. But I do think we have a number of people who run small businesses, and it makes sense, I believe, to relieve the requirements a little bit, but not totally. So we're not planning to have people doing business in their driveways or parking their vehicles in different places, that kind of thing. So I think it is a balancing act. We want to keep the city looking beautiful, but we also want to be aware that there are a lot of small business people who live in homes here in the city who may not have to pay $200 or $300 a month to park their vehicles separately from their home. So I do think it's a balancing act, and I think we're trying to catch the right position to support all the citizens.
Thank you. Councilman Gambaro?
You guys covered my comments, so I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So I'll just piggyback on a few of these. I want to echo Councilman Miller's comments and thank staff and city manager for submitting all of the documents to Doge. It happened really quickly as well. It was a very quick turnaround, so I thank you guys. Thank you to Helena. I'm sure she had a very big hand in that, and her team as well. With regards to the work vehicles, I have been thinking about this over the last several days, and I know council is going to come back to us with a proposed ordinance change or change to the code. I really think that we need to just keep it at the regular vehicles that can just be wrapped. I know there was a lot of discussion about whether or not we should allow ladders on top, certain racks, things like that. My concern with that is, where do you draw the line? And we heard some folks come forward that have food trucks in our community. One of them is my favorite. So I want to help out those small business owners as well. But I do have a concern that we're going down a very slippery slope, and we never want to do that. There needs to be a hard line in the sand that's very clear to the residents, both in favor and against, as to what our code actually reads. I would ask my council members, try to think of creative ways in which we can accommodate those folks. So whether, I know we had a couple food truck purveyors who said, when I get home from an event at 10 o'clock at night, I have to unload some of my stuff at home and then bring my food truck to the storage unit and then be back there at 6 a.m. to then drive to Jacksonville for an event at 8 a.m. And I understand the inconvenience of these things and the discouragement of some of those small business owners. So maybe we can think of some creative, maybe it's hours that they can be parked in their driveway or something to that effect, to where really, okay, you can park there from 10 p.m. and it has to be gone by 7 a.m. or something to that effect. I don't know. I want us to brainstorm a little bit, and maybe reach out to the community and see if they've got some ideas, just so that we can make sure we're not being closed-minded on this point. But I am leaning towards, just so that you all know where my head's at, I am leaning towards regular vehicles they can be, right now we've got the limitation, I think it's 3 feet by 2 feet or 5 feet or something. I don't remember what the logos can be right now, but 100% okay with wrapped vehicles, but want to really stay away from the larger commercial vehicles. So just food for thought as we consider that when it comes up. And then the only other thing that I did want to say, Ms. Henry, I also liked the idea of a proclamations event. I think that's a really good idea. I don't know, maybe city manager, if you can work with Parks and Rec on something like that, to see what that would look like. I fear it might be very, very, very long. So maybe we have two, one that covers January through June and one that covers July through December. I don't know, but I don't know what you all feel about that. But I think it's a good idea to highlight a lot of those efforts and some businesses, some nonprofits in those periods to give them as much support as possible.
So, sorry.
The only problem I see with that, I think it's a good idea to make sure we publicize all these people who've done good things in the city. I don't think we know at the beginning of the year every proclamation that's going to be asked. So what happens when we do the yearly or bi-yearly event, and then there's 4 or 5 other proclamations that come in? I guess I'd be leery about doing too much change to really thought that one through. But we do want to do something maybe to increase the public awareness of the proclamations. Maybe, I'm not sure. We need to look into that. But I'd be careful about because my experience over the last 8-9 years is a lot of times those proclamations come in, late, during the year. We don't know every one that's going to be for the whole year.
Yeah, no, I know Ms. Kershaw works really closely with a lot of, so every year, I think when we look at the list of the previous proclamations that have come in, and I think we try to base a lot of what we're going to do the next year based on that. And I'm not saying that we necessarily do away with the reading of the proclamations during the meetings as well, but just to give them more awareness. But I'll put that ball in staff's court and see if you all want to kind of toss around some ideas just to bring more awareness. But I think Councilman Gambaro had something.
What about the expo? We've done 2 this year, right? That's local businesses, departments within the city, things like that. So, potentially that could be a place where we're highlighting specific organizations, inviting them to come in, so they can be part of it as well.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm open to it, and happy to see what options, staff comes back with. But in the priority of things, we're asking a lot of staff, where does this fall? We just need to make sure we don't need it yesterday, right?
Yeah, well, we don't need a hard and fast answer on that. So, all right, with public comment and council comments in response there to being closed, we'll move on.
Ms. Pontieri, just
yes.
check to make sure the mayor.
Is the mayor on now?
We don't know. I just still want to.
Just periodically check. Got it. Do we have Mayor Norris? Doesn't sound like it. Okay. All right, we need to approve the meeting minutes for May 6, 2025 business meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes of the City Council workshop meeting, May 13th, 2025. May I please get a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All right, we'll move on to letter G, board appointments. Appoint 4 members to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Council or Madam Clerk? Councilman Gambaro, did you have something?
I'll wait till
Okay.
Ken's in.
Hi, I'm Jackie Gonzalez with the City of Palm Coast Community Development Division. I'm in planning, and this is Michael Hansen. He's one of the planners in the community development. We're here to have the 4 appointments to the AHAC committee at this time. Under Section 16 of the Flagler County Code and pursuant to State Statute 420-976, the City of Palm Coast and the Board of Commissioners of Flagler County created an AHAC Housing Advisory Board for our entitlement community to receive the grant funding as a requirement to that grant. Under this, we formed a interlocal agreement that acknowledges that we would have an AHAC Advisory Committee Board with 11 members at max. Currently, we have 4 vacancies available for that AHAC Committee Board. That committee board purpose is to review and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners as well as the Palm Coast community regarding City Council regarding this specific initiatives and incentives to increase the availability and affordability of housing in Flagler County. At this time, I do have all the AAC members that are here, if you have any questions for them, except for one. Unfortunately, he got stuck in Dallas at the airport, so he is unable to make it today.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. The only question that I had is, do you all have a list of, because there's several different types of representatives in the categories that they have to fill. Do we have a list of which categories are already filled?
Yes, ma'am, we do. And currently, only one or two of the members fill one of the categories that's already filled. Categories H, B, F, K, and D are currently active.
Will you please repeat that? I apologize.
That's okay. H, B, F, K, and D.
E is an elephant?
No, F is in Frank, K is in Catherine, D is in dog, and B is in boy.
Thank you. All right, do we have any questions for staff or for any of our current members?
I have an ask. I don't know all the applicants, and I just ask consensus before we move to a vote if we can hear from each of the applicants if they're here today before we move forward.
I don't have an issue with that.
I'm good.
Very good. Okay.
The applicants are here, so they are available.
Before we have anybody come forward, I know in some of these appointments, we have everybody else that is not speaking step out of the room. Do we want to maintain that same procedure? I think that's appropriate. Okay, so we'll call Ms. Amaral up first, and if you are an applicant and you are not Ms. Amaral, if you could please step outside of the room, and then we'll have Mr. DeLorenzo. If you can go grab the next one when we're ready for them, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. And I think it's standard, we usually give everybody 3 minutes, so I'll give you the podium, Mrs. Amaral, for 3 minutes. You can introduce yourself, and then if council has any questions, we'll ask you questions.
Sure. My name is Carla Amaral. I have been involved in the local Palm Coast building industry since I moved here in 2004.
Mrs. Amaral, I'm so sorry. Can you just pull the microphone down a little bit or a little bit closer to you so we can hear you? Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Carla Amaral. I've been involved in the local Palm Coast building industry since I moved here in 2004. I'm a realtor. My husband and I own a business where we build custom homes and pools. We own a property management business, so I've been involved in all of those parts of housing. But the reason I applied was because I have a daughter who's a nurse, and I have a niece who's a Flagler County school teacher, and finding apartments and places to live where they can afford is very difficult here right now. And, you know, I have kids that are currently in high school, will be graduating, going to college, and I hope can come back and find somewhere that they can afford to live. So we really do have a lack of affordable workforce housing in Palm Coast.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from council for this applicant? Okay, thank you so much for applying.
Thank you.
Take a seat, and we will bring in the next member, I think Mr. Adolphus Evans. Good morning, sir. If you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll ask any questions if we have any.
Yes, good morning, council persons and Mayor Norris. My name is Adolphus Evans Jr. I go by AJ. My wife and I retired and moved to this community about 4.5 years ago, and we really love it here. And so I would like to use my life experiences to help out with the affordable housing issues. I'm a 1981 graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. My degree was in operations research. I also hold a degree from Regis University in Denver, Colorado, a master's of business administration. My Air Force experience was for 5 years. I was a scientific analyst and worked with an offshoot of NORAD as far as looking at satellite reconnaissance worldwide. Then I went to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. I was with the HUD for 30 years. So I was there in the advent of the community planning process, both the 5-year community plan and the 1-year action plan. I helped manage and implement that process within the New Jersey State Office. And I had 3 counties and 16 cities under my purview as a manager. So I feel as if that I could contribute positively to the committee. I like working with people. I am looking forward to grappling with some of the issues that I see and I follow, like state SB 784 that's currently being considered, and also your amendments or your desire to have job requirements for commercial development west of the tracks. So I am definitely here to help, and I would love to be a part of the Affordable Housing Committee. Thank you very much. Any questions for me?
Thank you, sir. I'll bring it back to the dais. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Just want to say thanks for your service.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Mr. De Lorenzo, if you could please bring in Kelsey Lombard. Good morning, ma'am. If you could please introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll open it up for any questions.
Sure. My name is Kelsey Lombard. I'm with the Palm Coast Flagler Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here for the Housing Authority position.
Okay. I have a question just based on that. Why are you interested in serving on the committee?
So I feel like I can bring a collaborative spirit, a commitment of data-driven solutions, and a passion for driving for our community. I feel like I have a position in the community as the heart of Palm Coast, I believe, and I want to bring that passion and drive to this committee.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, in terms of affordable housing, how do you think your experience would apply?
I believe that I have a lot of resources within the community, and a passion for that is something that we need in Palm Coast. So I think that I can bring those connections and help maintain that and bringing that forth.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Melendez. Good morning. If you could just tell us why you'd like to serve on the committee, and then we'll open it up for any questions. And I'm sorry, tell us a little bit about yourself as well, even though we know you. But.
Thanks. My name is Mindy Melendez. I have my master's in education. I taught for several years in Ohio and here. And then we started flipping houses. I went into real estate. We've been flipping houses since 2016. And we go in, not we, I get fired all the time from it. My husband does the flipping. Just to go in and better the community, better the houses. He's now doing a lot of work out in Bunnell. So I was a real estate agent for a while. We went out and started our brokerage about 3 years ago. We do a lot for the community, as in the foster care system. That's near and dear to my heart. 2 of my children are adopted. And then we, right now we're doing something for, I don't know if you guys are familiar with 10 Can. We're gonna have a silent auction at our brokerage on June 5th. For veterans and first responders that have PTSD. 10 Can is an organization that brings the family together for the healing, not just the person suffering with the PTSD. They take them out camping. It's a Christian base, but they don't, necessarily drive it towards Christian. It's to heal the veteran from their PTSD. So that's me.
Thank you. Any questions from the dais?
No, thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Melendez.
Volunteering.
All right, last one, and anybody else who's out there. I think there's just one more, right? Okay, so we don't have Mr. Raymond Royer? No? Okay. All right, I know there's a specific process. I think everybody has a tally sheet with their names on it. So, Madam Clerk, if you'd like to explain to us how you'd like us to do this.
Of course. So there's a voting sheet at each station for you. If you can please select your 4 appointments. There are 4 vacancies, 5 applicants for your consideration.
Thank you.
And we don't have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, it's
Just a checkbox, yeah, something like that.
While we're waiting, are any of the current members retiring this time, or the people who are here on the board already, they're staying?
The people on the board are staying. We had 2 people that did leave the board, but they're part of the 4 appointments, and people that are slated are in the next September round, which would be the county's pick at that time.
Well, I want to thank the current board for volunteering and all of the work that I know, Ms. Gonzalez, that you do with many of these types of boards. So thank you for that, and thank you for everybody who applied to serve as well. We greatly appreciate it.
City Council, we received unanimous votes for Ms. Amaral, Mr. Evans, Ms. Lombard, and Ms. Melendez.
Okay, thank you so much. And with that, we will move with item H, which is an appeal. Council, if you'll stick with me on this, there's a very specific process that we have to follow. So, Council, if at all I stumble, please let me know. But this is an appeal, the Hill Point Way Self-Storage Appeal of Planning and Land Development Regulation Board Decision, application number 6236. I'll allow staff to give its presentation.
Just before we start there, Ms. Pontieri, just a couple housekeeping rules. So this is an appeal process. It's going by your Land Development Code 2.16.02C. Before I get too much into it, I just want to start with this is a quasi-judicial hearing. So if you could please, Ms. Pontieri, have the council go through and give any ex parte communication.
Yes, have there been any ex parte communications, Councilman Miller?
Yes, I have.
Again, you explained that ex parte communication, will that affect your vote
Yeah, so
today?
I just received a presentation on basically past projects similar to this to kind of show me the character of how this would be created.
And then, but based on that information, you're going to take this hearing today, and that's how you're going to make your vote today, is based on the information.
Yeah,
you received.
absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Councilman Sullivan?
Again, I've had an informational briefing concerning this, but it will not affect my vote today.
All right, Councilman Gambaro?
I received an email with the basic information on this brief, but it will not affect my vote.
And I myself did meet with the applicant and their attorney, and was also briefed on what happened at the PLDRB meeting. I've watched the PLDRB meeting as well and read their meeting minutes, but I will base my decision solely on what's presented here today.
Perfect. And then, so just last, this is a de novo hearing, so that means that you're considering all information, including the planning board decision, and when you make your decision today. At the end of the day, you will make a motion based on the evidence that you received that to pretty much affirm the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board action or reverse it. And someone will make a motion at the end of this hearing. Probably the first step, Ms. Pontieri, is have the clerk swear in everybody in.
Yes, Madam Clerk, if you could swear in staff, the applicant, and anybody else who will be speaking on behalf of either party.
Absolutely. If you will be testifying in this item, please rise and raise your right hand to swear or affirm the oath. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
So essentially, according to the process, which is outlined in LDC or Land Development Code 2.16.02C, city staff has the ability to make an opening statement and then call witnesses and the presentation of their evidence. And then there is the ability to cross-examine each witness if elected. So with that, I'll let city staff begin.
Good morning, Michael Hansen for Community Development. This particular appeal was heard at the Planning Board previously. However, as the...
Michael, just 1 second. Ms. Pontieri, one thing, I need you to read in the title from the agenda sheet for this. It's H6.
I read that at the beginning. I'll read it again.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did, but that's okay. Appeal Hill Point Way Self-Storage Appeal of Planning and Land Development Regulation Board Decision Application Number 6236.
All right. Once again, Michael Hansen for Community Development. This particular request for the appeal is for a special exception to allow mini warehouse or self-storage in our COM2 zoning classification. On the PowerPoint presentation, you can see the location of the project. It is approximately 6.8 acres. It's on Pine Lakes Parkway in between Belterre and Palm Coast Park. It's adjacent to the Point Grand apartment building. Right to its west, there's another multifamily development to its north on the west side of Pine Lakes Parkway, and then single-family residential to the east on the east side of Pine Lakes Parkway. And on the aerial, you can see a development to the south on the west side of Pine Lakes Parkway, which is also a self-storage facility that is zone COM3. The future land use map designation for the property is all mixed use. And as I mentioned, the zoning is COM2, which requires a special exception for a self-storage facility to be located in it. This slide was added at the request of the members of the Planning Board for a presentation that shows a depiction of some of the existing, already developed and operating self-storage sites within the vicinity. However, it was put in as an informational slide at their request. There's no criteria that we have in our land development code that allows us to make a recommendation based on the existence of other self-storage sites. As far as the proposed development, right now, they'd be looking at coming in with a technical site plan if the City Council ultimately reverses the decision of the Planning Board. So with the concept plan that we have right now, we're looking at approximately 99,585 square feet with approximately 850 storage units and spaces for about 26 recreational vehicles or boats parking on what is the north and west side of the property. This is a rendering of the landscape plan that the applicants provided, showing dense vegetation and screening, and also the stormwater. Some of the project renderings, what they're potentially looking at, and the renderings, I should warn you, are subject to ultimately change a little bit because as this particular appeal case deals with this special exception, potentially granting the use on the property, the applicant would subsequently have to apply for that technical site plan as well. Excuse me. As far as the criteria for granting a special exception, we evaluated under criteria for section 2.05.05, which we do all of our projects. The principal one is whether or not it's in conflict or contrary to the public interest. When you took a look at the staff report that was presented in the evaluation of it, staff made a determination that it met all these 5 criteria, including this 2.05.05, and that it's not in conflict with or contrary to the public interest. And as far as the evaluation for that, the COM2 zoning district is intended to allow for general commercial and a mixture of use on a community-wide demand, but it also takes a look into the actual individual project as far as the land use developmental pattern. We noted that there's existing multifamily on 2 fronts. There's already an existing self-storage site a third of a mile from this particular project, and it's located on a collector road with Pine Lakes Parkway. So self-storage facility typically has a much smaller trip generation as far as traffic goes. The applicant submitted a trip generation report with the project that indicated the proposed use would have approximately 144 daily trips with 15 p.m. peak hour trips. As far as analysis comparing the allowed development based on COM2, shopping center or retail strip center would probably be the most intense use that's allowed by right in that commercial 2 zoning, which based on the square footage of the proposed structure at 99,585 square feet, that trip gen report then would potentially look at about 5,400 daily trips with a PM peak hour generation of approximately 656 on a collector road with adjacent multifamily and single-family residential, which would significantly inundate the area as far as traffic concerns. Additionally, the applicant provided a sanitary sewer generation report that analyzed this particular project as far as the usage for utilities, and there are existing connections for mains, but with the proposed self-storage facility, based on the applicant's report, the proposed use would generate approximately 611 gallons per day, whereas that same retail shopping center use could potentially generate 9,958 gallons a day. So a substantial reduction with the proposed use that would require the special exception compared to what could be theoretically developed on the property based on the square footage of the building with the permitted uses. So that's part of the justification why staff decided that, or made the recommendation for approval, noting that it's not in conflict with contrary to the public interest. During the planning board's recommendation, this was the particular criteria that they took objection to, indicating that they felt that it was in conflict or contrary to the public interest, and I'll get more into the planning board's decision here in just a moment. Once again, for the remaining criteria, there was no real objection based on the planning board's review. Staff made a determination that it was consistent with our land development code and comprehensive plan, and provided several policies, goals, and objectives indicating such. In the process of this, we also analyzed the project in consideration with our property rights element of our comprehensive plan as well, noting that the property owner's rights have not been impacted by the outcome by the special exception. So the idea of a special exception is something that, although it has a term special, it's essentially a use that's evaluated to be compatible with that zoning district, but subject to additional conditions to make it fit in that particular area. So in the staff report that you received, we actually have a total of 9 additional conditions that were agreed upon by the applicant to help with that compatibility. This particular slide talks about more about the trip generation report that I discussed previously. The evaluation for this criteria for unreasonable hazard, nuisance, or constituting a threat to the health and welfare. Since there's already an existing self-storage site a third of a mile, it shows that it's compatible with the neighborhood. In our land development code, we have requirements for additional screening to screen any kind of recreational vehicle or boat parking with 8-foot high perimeter screening blocking that view from the road. It helps increase the compatibility by offering that vegetative buffer and natural screening. Additionally, on the Point Grand side, there's dense treed areas which provide additional vegetative screening from the west side as well as the property. This project, as I mentioned earlier, will be required to go through a technical site plan submittal is in the event that the council reverses the planning board's determination. As it's not listed as 99,585 square feet, it would be considered a Tier 2 technical site plan submittal, which has approval by the planning board. The threshold for approval by the council is that project over 100,000 square feet, so they're just under that threshold. But during that submittal, they'd be required to meet all the conditions and requirements that we have for land development code, our code of ordinances, our comprehensive plan, any applicable federal, state laws, Florida Building Code, Florida Fire Prevention Code, the accessibility standards and guidelines through the American Disability Act as well. Special exceptions also have additional criteria that we analyze it based on 2.07.03. And those criteria is that the particular use is set forth and consistent with the land development code. So, as I mentioned, the project would require additional screening. These are those two particular sections within our land development code that create the additional screening requirements for self-storage facility that has boat and recreational vehicle storage or outdoor storage. As I mentioned, the project will have to meet our land development code. It also has to meet our architectural requirements that we have. So with that intent, the building will have to have an aesthetic value that matches and fits in with the actual neighborhood. So during that technical site plan, our architecture reviewer will have to sign off on the project as well. We have a staff recommended condition that, as far as the architecture and landscaping go, that they'll have to provide potential extra screening to the approval of our landscape architect during that technical site plan submittal, which the applicant has agreed to that condition. The project has to meet all our concurrency requirements as it goes through the permitting process. So as far as concurrency monitored facilities, when we're looking at water or wastewater generation, we don't do a project with a reservation ahead of time, so that's all met during the actual permitting process. So right now, we're going through with the appeal for the special exception. As I mentioned earlier, the proposed use would be significantly less than what theoretically could be approved by right with that COM2 zoning district, but at the same time, during that technical site plan submittal, it will have to go through to meet all our land development code, and then we go through a site development permit process, which then they have to make sure that they meet the concurrency requirements before they ultimately get a CO on the project. The third criteria is whether or not it's compatible with the surrounding area and promotes value to the surrounding land, structures, and buildings. So as I mentioned, there's an existing self-storage facility already a third of a mile just to the south of this particular project that's been there for a number of years. It shows that a self-storage facility can exist within this neighborhood. It's located on a collector road, which typically has a lower traffic volume than if it was on an arterial road. So it's based on the particular site configuration with this project or site being located right in the front of the Point Grand apartment complex. It's unlikely for, honestly, some heavy retail use being developed in that COM2 section of land because it's not located on an arterial strip of road. So as far as having that high visibility and high traffic flow, this use is probably a little bit more compatible with some of the other uses that might be allowed by right. And the fact that it's self-storage and there's multifamily located adjacent to the next property, an existing residential community already to the east, it's possible that the surrounding neighbors might actually utilize this project if it were to be approved as customers. In further review, whether the compatibility the surrounding neighborhoods, some of the conditions that were agreed upon by the applicant for this include conditions such as hours of operations limiting the project to not operate after 10 p.m. or before 7 a.m. if it were to be developed, to help establish and protect some of the quiet operational hours for people that are sleeping in the community. And also that's minimizing some of the traffic for the project at nighttime hours where visibility might be reduced upon Pine Lakes Parkway. As far as public participation, the applicants actually went above and beyond what's required by our code. Special exceptions don't require a neighborhood meeting. However, the applicants hosted a neighborhood meeting on their own, which they noticed to adjacent properties within a 500-foot buffer from the project. I attended on behalf of the city. Unfortunately, nobody from the public attended that meeting, but the neighborhood, while following the neighborhood meeting, the applicant received a couple inquiries for public participation, which they chose to forward to me, which we were included with the actual staff report. So it should have been in your packet. So typically, we would receive public participation on a staff level oftentimes directly from the people that were noticed. Staff didn't receive any direct public participation regarding this project, but the applicant, being forthcoming, provided that public participation that they received. So during the original special exception hearing, staff made a recommendation for approval, noting that it's consistent with our comprehensive plan, our land development code, and based on the zoning classification or zoning district, subject to the 9 conditions that staff recommended. It includes an 8-foot high decorative wall with sufficient visual screening to break the appearance of the wall on the street side of Pine Lakes Parkway. And it also has that language that I talked about earlier about supplemental plannings required to the satisfaction of the city's landscape architect during the site plan submittal process. The hours of operation that I mentioned earlier, outdoor, and then we have some standard kind of conditions for outdoor recreational vehicles, limited to make sure that the vehicles are operable, and it's essentially not turning into a junkyard. So it doesn't allow for heavy-duty trucks, semi-tractor trailers, dump trucks, buses, conics, shipping containers. Any kind of repair and maintenance of those vehicles is limited to essentially your typical user-operator level as far as washing, cleaning, detailing, tire changing, swapping out a battery or such. And it also prohibits anybody from living in the RVs on site. Any kind of business is prohibited as far as leasing or selling those vehicles or renting them out for a period of time for someone wanted to rent out an RV to a family, so that wouldn't be allowed. And then additionally, that all those parking spaces, they can't be within any kind of driving lanes or any kind of non-designated storage areas for those recreational vehicles. So on that concept plan I showed earlier, there's pretty clear delineated spaces for those recreational vehicles and or boat parking, which then we'll go through when it comes to the technical site plan submittal. We'll get kind of into the nitty-gritty details to make sure that it meets all the particular requirements as far as size, angle of parking, and make sure that we have long enough drive aisles. Business can't operate out of the storage units or for retail display or sell of merchandise. And you can't have any individual business signage being visible from the exterior of any of the storage units except for the storage business itself. And then lastly, that the project would be require the approval of technical site plan and that site development permit that I mentioned earlier and any kind of other developmental permits as required by our land development code. During the actual public hearing though, as I mentioned, the planning board denied the special exception by a vote of 4-2. They stated in their denial that the planning board thought that the proposed development would be in conflict or contrary to the public interest, citing the criteria under section 2.05.05, subsection A. In evaluation of that recommendation, staff tried to work with planning board members to analyze the highlights of that discussion. And the key findings were that the intent of the zone for commercial 2 was that a storage facility does not necessarily align with the intent of that intent, which is meant to support a mix of retail, service, business, and employment opportunities. And they thought that the facility might contribute to an oversaturation of storage uses in the area because they didn't have any kind of demonstrated market demand analysis at the time. Because they were citing the existing location of that storage unit just to the south and then some of the other nearby self-storage facilities. In response to this particular criteria, the applicant did email over a document, or provide an answer for a question regarding market demand that was forwarded up to management that indicated, based on climate-controlled self-storage facilities versus non-climate self-storage facilities, and this one would be proposed to be climate-controlled, that in the 3-mile radial buffer of this proposed site, that essentially they're operating at a capacity of about 50% as far as based on the need, perceived need. The trade area studied for the site is a 3-mile radius around the property, which shows a storage at a rate of 4 square miles per residence, below the market need of 8 square feet per residence. So they're about that 50% under that threshold of need for the climate-controlled storage facilities. The applicant also provided information noting that the non-climate controlled facilities have a standard based, or a different standard that doesn't meet the same market demand based on the climate control aspect. The Planning and Land Development Regulation Board analysis also talked about incompatibility with the comprehensive plan as far as community character, thinking that the development did not support the area's walkability and mixed-use potential, noting that it does not contribute to the goals of the future land use map or goal 1.1 of the comprehensive plan, which emphasize balancing of mix of land use and employment opportunities. Essentially, this boiled down to them thinking it'd be more of the same that's already in the vicinity. And it failed to meet special exception requirements, noting and there was a clarification during the meeting, as I mentioned earlier, that special exception is not an automatic entitlement, and it has to be evaluated based on compatibility for the surrounding area. So the planning board found that the application would limit the potential for future commercial development that might be better aligned with the public interest. So based on those factors, the planning board found that the application did not meet the public interest, and that's what led to their recommendation, or all their denial of the special exception.
Can I pause you just?
Yes, sir.
So 3, even though it's pertaining to the special exception, is basically the same argument as 1?
Essentially, yes, sir.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
As far as the appeals process in regards to the special exception denial, our policy under 2.16 allows the city council to either affirm the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board's action or reverse the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board's action. So as far as the appeal, staff made a recommendation that after the council deliberates and makes a motion to either affirm, can make a motion to either affirm or reverse the action. From an ethics standpoint, as I'm an AICP certified planner, as I took a public position recommending approval on it, I can't go back and change my recommendation. So based on this appeal, the recommendation is for the council to determine whether or not they would like to affirm or reverse that decision. I'm available for any questions. Otherwise, our applicant's team is here as well.
Thank you very much for that information. I'll bring it back to the dais because step 3 under B of the appeal process is to cross-examine each witness if so elected. So I'll bring it back to the dais to ask questions of staff. Councilman Sullivan, do you have any questions?
No questions at this point. Just be interested to hear any other discussion here on the panel.
Okay, Councilman Miller?
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Yeah, I just had a question. Do we require market analysis of any other types of businesses when they're putting in applications?
Typically, no. Market analysis is not on any of our checklists for any kind of submittal.
Okay, just wanted to make sure it wasn't part of the criteria that we use to determine feasibility.
I have a couple questions, and I'll let Councilman Gambaro get settled and ask any questions he has. If you could go back to the slide that had the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board decisions. Thank you. For number one, what proof did the PLDRB have in making the assertion that the facility would contribute to an oversaturation of storage uses in the area with no demonstrated market demand? Did they have any evidence, or was there any evidence presented one way or the other during that hearing?
To the best of my recollection, there was no evidence based on criteria that could potentially be used. They did ask for that map showing the relative location of other already existing self-storage facilities within the area, but during the meeting I reminded them that there was no criteria to take a look into the location of existing self-storage facilities as a criteria for the evaluation.
And then based on number 2 and number 3, do we know how long this property has been marketed for sale at their traditional COM2 uses?
So we don't know exactly how long the property's been for sale. I tried to do a little bit of research on this one and found that the property owner has owned the property since 2013, and it's sat vacant since then. This particular project came to us through the TRX process that the city has for potential consideration for the self-storage facility back probably around December or so, maybe January. And that, however, we saw it once before this particular property for a potential consideration for a live local application that never was actually submitted for. So prior to the current application that we have, I've at least seen this particular project come in for some cursory level information as far as what a potential development would have to go through based on our land development code.
So we had a potential live local application for this same piece of property?
There was a technical review extreme meeting on this for live local in the fall. It was either late summer or fall. I've been now with the city for approximately a year, well, just over a year. So I think it was probably around September or October or so.
Okay, which would have been more housing?
Yes.
Yes, that would have been more housing, but that application ultimately didn't manifest.
Okay. And I know you went over the traffic counts being extremely lower than what the traditional COM2 uses would be. Can you touch on the sewage and water usage?
Sure. So based on the sewer generation report that the applicant provided, and typically your water generation is going to ultimately go in the sewer unless they're using some kind of reclaim for watering their landscaping. As far as the sewer generation report that we have, the report by, I believe it was Dynamic Consulting, was looking at 611.25 gallons per day. Based on the square footage breakdown of the area for the storage units plus the 575 square foot office. So they analyzed it for, on the other end of the spectrum, what the maximum, most intense use allowed in the COM2 zoning district would be that shopping center, which would potentially be a sewage generation rate of 9,958.5 gallons per day. So doing some quick math, that's just over about 9,500 gallons more a day as far as sewage generation with, say, a shopping center. at 900, or 99,585 square feet compared to the proposed use right now with the 99,585 square foot self-storage facility.
And my last question, is there, because we know that one of the ways that we sell commercial is if there's, quote, rooftops to support that commercial. Do we anticipate this piece of property becoming more appealable to, for these types of commercial uses based on housing that's in the pipeline to come to this area? Do we know of any that would affect the sellability of this piece of property for traditional COM2 uses?
I think the aspect for traditional COM2 uses, one of the biggest pieces that might be essentially kind of some kind of check, essentially, would be not necessarily the surrounding rooftops or further development, but would be the location of it. So Pine Lakes Parkway, as I mentioned, is a collector road. It's not a heavily trafficked road, such as an arterial like Palm Coast Parkway or State Road 100. So based on the fact that the Pine Lakes Parkway supports less traffic on it, it ultimately would have less visibility. So the potential site at 6.8 acres theoretically could support something like maybe a grocery store, but whether or not they could actually get the visibility and have the maximum amount of daily trips that they're looking at to develop, that's another story that a potential developer would have to take and look into market feasibility and figure out if some kind of use like that would be essentially useful. But our applicant might be able to provide a little more detail on that answer once you get to the point of the appeal for asking them questions.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one question for our legal counsel. Does approval of this special exception set any precedent for other COM2 properties in the city to then come in and ask for a special approval based on the same criteria?
No, this is just it's a special exception. You take it case by case. Not everyone that asks for a special exception is automatically for that special exception.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Gambar, did you have any questions for staff?
I do. I just have some general questions. So the one chart that you had up that the planning board pushed up that had all the different locations, I counted 11 storage units. Is that about right for the red ones?
On this particular location, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think maybe 10. Yeah, so you're probably spot on, sir. There are a couple other self-storage locations also, as I mentioned on the slide. There's two that aren't depicted on this map, one being on Old Kings north of Matanzas, and then another being over on State Road 100 west of Colbert Lane.
Okay, so out of all those, you stated earlier that there's still a 50% gap in climate-controlled units that are required based on the analysis that was submitted from the owner?
So the applicant, in response to some questions that they received, tried to get some information based on that they apparently did a study based on a 3-mile radius from the site. And that's how they achieved that determination with the climate-controlled areas, that there was a need for 8 square feet per person, where there was only a capacity for the 4 square feet per person. And the applicant might be able to provide more details on that. Staff hasn't actually seen anything really in depth as far as any kind of market analysis report that goes into the evaluation whether these existing sites are climate controlled or not climate controlled. That was just an answer that the applicant provided in the set of questions that we received.
Okay, do you concur with that analysis?
Without seeing a full report where I could independently read through the entire report and see the scientific data going through, I can't make a determination whether or not that report's or the statement's accurate or not.
Do we have an understanding of the ratio of utilization for the non-climate controlled units at all?
I don't think we have any requirements as far as breakdown based on utilization for climate controlled or non-climate controlled self-storage facilities.
Okay. What kind of commercial tax would we be able to bring into the city based off of the, if this property were to be approved?
Okay, that was one of the questions we did receive. So I tried to do a little analysis based on that, based on the question, and I'll want to preface this with these numbers are obviously estimates, and
Sure.
so I could be a little off base, but I tried to provide an analyst based on some of the existing self-storage facilities we have, and one based on the square or the size of the property that was kind of similar use as far as size, being climate controlled, that was recently developed. We had one that's over, you can see it in the southwest corner of the map here, Extra Space Storage off Old Kings Road. That was recently approved, and that is on a 10.79 acre site. It's 2 stories with 89,690 square feet of gross floor area based on the site plan that they submitted, and that was previously approved. So although the site is a little larger than the one that this current project is being considered for, the self-storage facilities are just slightly smaller by about 10,000 square feet than the one that the applicants are presenting. Taking a look at the analysis as far as tax rates, the current tax rate for the particular project here, I took a look at the tax estimator that the property appraiser has on their website, and for the vacant property, it estimated the taxes at $6,888.59, where the developed property that has that 89,000 square foot facility had an estimated tax rate of $185,049.17. The applicant also did some research into this and provided us with some information where their numbers are a little slightly different than the ones that I was able to come up with from the property appraiser's tax estimator, indicating that they believe the current tax revenue for the site was $5,530, and the same property that I analyzed, they provided for the extra space storage over there on the southeast portion of the map, they were looking at $128,804 of annual taxes, or $1.50 for gross square foot area. So there's definitely potential if the property is developed, it will obviously generate more than sitting vacant at this point, but as far as having a precise number, I'm not entirely sure. So the numbers that we have are estimates at best.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tyner, we've spoken at length on, potential growth numbers that Bieber puts out at the University of Florida, and especially the media numbers that Bieber pushes out, like for 2035, I think it's somewhere around 150,000 that potentially the city of Palm Coast is projected to hit. So I guess as I look at this, an applicant wouldn't build necessarily a storage unit if there wasn't an intent for utilization or anything, think they could get it filled. Are those numbers about right? Is it 150,000?
I don't, we will increase on Bieber. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that sounds pretty right. We continue to grow. There continues to be needs for self-storage on our residents. You remember, our land development code doesn't allow for RV parking in the yards or boats. So we're a little bit unique in that way where, our citizens need a place to store their boats, store their RV for outside storage. So when we continue to grow, the need is here. And I would think, the business model from the folks who are actually in the business, they carefully study, and I'm sure we'll hear from the applicant, they carefully study the need themselves before they're going to do a large investment to have this type of use in this specific area.
And then finally, what other tax would the city get, if you've got, vacational rental property, right? You got the county tax and estate tax and all that other stuff, what other tax would this city potentially generate out of this?
Well, of course, at, site plan and during the building permit stage, we're going to collect our impact fees. We're going to collect transportation impact fees. We're going to collect the county fire impact fees, the city fire impact fees, the emergency service impact fees, and of course, our utility impact fees as well. So they will generate some revenue in that area as well.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
Yeah, I just had one that I missed. So the slide that where the planning board kind of showed their conflicts or what they thought were the reasons to deny. It's the three conditions. So they talk about walkability here, and I went through the minutes, and I didn't really see, did they present or have any evidence that this would affect walkability? I know in that area there's a separate large walking path that would not be on that property. So, in that specific instance, there is an alternative walking area there. So I don't see how the property would be impeding or causing an issue with walkability. I was just wondering if they presented any evidence or had anything to justify that.
I don't recall anything in particular relating to walkability for the presentation. When you're looking at term walkability, you're typically looking at how walkable a community is as far as being able to get to uses within the neighborhood. And there's something called a walk score that typically gets accredited to individual cities. Palm Coast, as you all are well aware, is significantly car dependent as far as transportation goes. So I think if any, and I'd have to go back and probably listen to the minutes in particular, if they're talking about walkability, they're probably related to whether or not someone living in the vicinity was able to probably likely get to, within a walking distance, achieve any kind of, or meet any kind of needs that they needed.
Gotcha. So kind of leaning into their assertion of mixed use and different types of uses for this property, they're assuming something that would be utilized more via walking from the neighborhoods aside from this use, I guess, is where I'm going with that. Okay, I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Yes, and if you look at the meeting minutes from PLDRB, I think Ms. Shank talked about that as far as the walkability is concerned, adding certain retail that she felt would kind of contribute to folks in the surrounding neighborhoods or apartment complexes being able to walk to this specific retail. So I think that's what she was alluding to.
I guess, for the attorney, my question would be, should predicting other uses be a consideration here legally?
So when you're deciding these matters, as I've told this council before, it's quasi-judicial, you have to rely on competent, substantial evidence, okay? And you have to take that into factors. Competent, substantial evidence is not conclusions by themselves. They're not opinions. They have to have facts that actually support that. So that's how you would analyze that. You take all the evidence, and as long as you have facts behind your decision, your conclusion, that is meeting the need. But if you're just going off of opinions with no facts, I would say that would not meet the competent, substantial evidence standard.
Yes, Councilman Sullivan.
Been listening, I've, been here a short time, but part of my concern here from the planning board is that this LDC section 2.05.05A, like it or not, is subjective. You're saying we don't want it, basically, because in our opinion, it's against the public interest. But that is an opinion not, to me, demonstrated with fact here at this point. So I think that's crucial here, because that's what really comes down to what we're deciding on. And I guess that would be my only point at this point.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing further from staff.
One quick point of clarification, Vice Chair or Vice Mayor. Since this is a de novo meeting as an appeal, the council has the ability, if they choose, they can potentially add on additional conditions if they were to reverse the PLDRB's decision in that course. So The original staff report had 9, but the council could generate more if they so chose.
Does staff have any further recommendations?
Not at this time.
What about
So
council?
I was gonna, one of my main concerns was the right turn lanes there.
Yeah, me too.
Satellite imagery shows no right turn lane. I drove it. There is a right turn lane that has since been added, I think, during the multifamily housing development. And when we reworked that whole road, I think it was kind of worked in there. So satellite has not been updated to show that, but there are right turn lanes. I was gonna ask for potentially to increase that right turn lane as a buffer for traffic to continue to move through, even though the evidence presents that there's going to be a negligible impact to trips on that road. I still thought it might be appropriate, but that already exists, so.
And just a point too, when the site plan comes in as well, council member, we will reanalyze the trips and the need for that as well again.
What is the speed limit on that road in that area? Is it 35?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure as well.
On Pine Lakes.
I'm pretty sure it's 45.
45?
I think it's 45.
Yeah, I don't, well, if we could, just staff, look at that, because my concern is with RVs and boats pulling out, I would like to see an acceleration lane, if it's warranted, maybe just take a look at that, because if the speed limit is in fact 45, and obviously this is if we reverse, the speed limit is 45, and you've got trailers and boats pulling out of there, depending on the traffic, it may be something we need to look at.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll make note of that.
Anything else from the dais before we hear from the applicant? Anything else from staff? No. Okay, thank you. We'll do public comment in just a moment, sir, okay? Thank you. We have to follow a certain process, but we'll get there, I promise. Okay, the applicant? Good morning, sir.
Thank you. Good morning. Council, for the record, Rob Merrill with Cobb Cole, address 1 Daytona Boulevard in Daytona Beach.
Sir, if you could just lift the mic up a little bit, maybe pull it a little bit
There we
closer.
go.
You can pull that whole box closer to you.
I wonder
Yeah,
what
there
that
we go.
basket was for. There's some gifts in there or something.
It's very fancy.
Yeah, it's nice.
Thank you.
So I want to start by thanking staff. I mean, Michael, that was very thorough, both your verbal and your written presentation, and I have to compliment council members for the questions. You guys have obviously done your homework on this. Makes my job a lot easier. You've answered a lot of the questions already. I do have a few things I want to add that I think would be helpful to today's presentation. You know, certainly all of the analysis related to comprehensive plan consistency, compliance with the land development code. You guys have checked off all those boxes. I'm not going to reiterate all that stuff, but it is definitely there, and you guys certainly have a solid basis, and in the words of your attorney, competent, substantial evidence to approve this project, without question, in my opinion. I think that, you know, it's important to know who you're talking about, who you're dealing with here, and so I've got the Johnson Development Associates group here with me. They did swear in. I didn't, because I don't have anything to testify, but we have folks, our engineer as well, to answer any questions you guys might have about their business or about the technical aspects to this. I will mention to you that, so you understand the context here, they are the contract purchasers of this piece of property. My good friend, and I think you know Mr. Michael Schmentos here, he represents the owners of the property, and he whispered in my ear it's been since 2003 that they've marketed this property for commercial use under the C3 zoning, which I think was a rezoning that occurred back then. So, I mean, as part of the history of this, if you're looking at the market, which again, understanding that that's not necessarily one of the criteria under your code, it has been a conversation that we've had. I think it's worth talking about. Nobody's stepped up to build a convenience store there or a gas station or whatever else could happen there, I suppose. And Michael, I'll let you elaborate to the extent you want to talk about the property owners. But I'll say something about Johnson Development Associates. You guys, I think, should know if a new business is coming to your community, who they are, what their history is, understand a bit about their track record. These folks have been in business since the 1960s.
Sir, may I ask, I'm so sorry to do this to you.
Am I too far away?
No, you're perfect. But you are providing some pretty good information, particularly the fact that the property has been listed since 2003. So I'd ask that we either swear you in or somebody else that is willing to give the same testimony, because legally that's what we can consider.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I think what I was doing was reiterating what is, I think, already in the record, but Michael, maybe you could weigh in so he could be the expert since I'm not.
Anybody who's willing to be sworn in so that we can officially consider what you are telling us.
Why don't I do it now, just in case I say
Thank you.
something
I
out of
appreciate that.
turn?
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And may I ask you a quick question for the record? Is everything that you've said so far, are you willing to attest to that now under oath officially?
Yeah, so what I just mentioned that you said was fact instead of legal argument is actually something that I've heard from Michael Chimento, and I'll let him weigh in. That's the first time, by the way, in almost 40 years I've been sworn in. That's interesting. I enjoyed it. So with that, I'll continue with the JDA group. That they're a family-owned, privately held company since the 1960s. So I can tell you that that's something that you can find on their website. They've been in the self-storage business for quite a few years as well. They do industrial projects. They do multifamily. They do even hotels. As well as self-storage. They've got more than 80 self-storage facilities in the state of Florida and around the country. So you've got a group here that's got a proven track record. And we've talked about things like the market study and is there a market in the map that showed the other facilities. When in talking with local governments and private sector folks, I try to encourage government folks to get in the shoes of the business people that are investing. If these guys are going to invest many millions of dollars in this facility and bring you a lot of tax revenue, they've done their homework. So I do have them here, and they are the experts, and they will, and they did swear in. They're happy to stand up and go through the details of how they do that if you guys choose to. I would suggest to you that it's not directly relevant to what we're doing, but I'm happy to have that information available to you if you like. Michael did give some information, and some of the information that he gave, I think, had to do with some things that he and his staff looked at. So hopefully you'll take their professional opinion into account as well. One thing I wanted to mention about JDA as well is these guys are not merchant builders. So a lot of times you see folks that are coming in to flip a project, to title it, and flip it to somebody to build it, or build it and then sell it to somebody else. These guys, for the most part, build and they hold and they operate. They use they use national level operators to come in and manage the facilities for them. So these guys, this becomes part of an asset of theirs. They're going to be part of your local business community. They're going to be, I think, great corporate citizens for the city of Palm Coast, and they're anxious to be part of the community. So I think that's important to know as well. A little bit about the project. Michael did a great job of kind of walking through the details of it with the site plan and such. If you wouldn't mind, Michael, putting the rendering up, I think that's kind of a good exhibit to sort of have in our minds as we go through this. I'll say that, and I'm not testifying, I am testifying. In almost 40 years of doing this, I have done a lot of self-storage facilities, and I can tell you that this particular type of business has really evolved over the years in my experience. The new self-storage facilities are not what you used to see with the roll-up orange doors, and the really, I think, sort of cheesy-looking places that you still see in some places, I guess, around the country, but not so much in Florida anymore. And I think a part of the reason is the marketplace. It drives them doing, much nicer facilities. They are generally very low impact. I think you saw all of the details about that in Michael's report. Transportation impacts, when I talk about self-storage facilities, I normally say it's less impactful than even a graveyard. People are coming to see their loved ones. Very, very few trips on the road, and that's very well documented. So I think we were at 15 peak hour trips, whereas if we did a Strift Center, which is allowed there, it's 656 peak hour trips, so exponentially less transportation impacts, which in my experience is the number one thing we get asked about in land development. Water and sewer impacts, Michael talked to you about that, very minimal. These modern self-storage facilities are extremely secure. People ask about, is it a safe place? They essentially become a compound that you can only get in and out of with a card key. And so by virtue of conditions that were placed on us by the city staff, it's going to be a 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. hours of operation. The lighting is going to be trued up with complete photometrics, so there's no light going off of the property to anyone else. Again, I think that what you see based on the newer self-storage facility is that they're very quiet. You don't even notice them, and if you notice them, they look nice. They look essentially like
If we could, guys, I'm so sorry. I want to make sure that we're being respectful to the speaker. If you all could just hold down the extra conversation over here, okay? We'll have public comment, I promise you, in just a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, you know, the architecture is like you'd see in a nice, well-done office building. And as Michael said, there are standards you guys have. We will be abiding by those. I think this is close to what you're going to see. To the extent we tweak it based on the site plan review process that Michael mentioned, we certainly will do that. You know, we talked about, I think Michael sort of walked around the buffering. You know, that's one of the things that comes up when people talk about compatibility. We do have both apartment buildings and single family across the street from the project. We have significant buffers, pretty much 360 around the building. We have an 8-foot masonry wall along Pine Lakes, and there's a wetland area, I think, on the north side that's going to be preserved such that it has additional buffering. One thing that you might not intuitively think of is, you know, when a self-storage facility is built, it really does clean up the neighborhood. So I've found, and others have found that have been in this business, you know, all your stuff that's in the side yard or your junk that's in the garage, if it's put in self-storage, you can pull your cars in the garage. It makes the neighborhood look better, you know. The boats that are supposed to be, you know, behind fences, you know, an hour, you know, parked somewhere safely. And in this case, I think, and I guess that would be something to you guys, but I've found that in different cities, code enforcement goes down for those kind of things, right? So it actually has a very positive effect that you wouldn't think of. And one that I think you guys probably do think of, I think you've already talked about, which is the fiscal impact. So with very quiet, low impact to the public infrastructure also comes significant tax base increase. So I think the number on the impact fees was in the 130 or something thousand.
That's correct.
Yeah, and then so the tax revenue, I think Michael did some look at it, and we did some look at it, and it's somewhere between $130,000 and $200,000 a year. So it's a good shot in the arm for something that's going to be very quiet, that looks nice.
And what is the current, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what is the current amount of taxes that's being collected on that piece of
Good
property?
question. That was the last thing on my sheet. 5,500 or so per year. So a significant, obviously, increase, as Michael had mentioned. And he did mention we had a neighborhood meeting that wasn't required of us. We sent notices out to people within 500 feet. We didn't have any takers on that. And in the PLDRB meeting, although I wasn't present there, there was nobody that gave public input. So everything that you see from the PLDRB came from them. So I think probably the last thing I'll talk about is something that has been said, but I think is very relevant, and so it's kind of the punchline to what I'll have to say today. You know, the comprehensive plan consistency is sort of the Bible that you guys look at to make decisions like you're making today. You know, every box in terms of consistency with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comp plan was checked here, without question. And that's why I think Michael, with confidence, is telling you that he's giving you a strong recommendation of approving this project. All of the criteria in, as he mentioned, 2.05, 0.05, 2.07, 02 was clearly met. And I think that to approve this project, you guys have way more competent, substantial evidence than you could ever need. And I think it really comes down to whether you think this is a good project. So it's a de novo hearing. We're really having this conversation as if we never had one before. And I think that's important for you guys to know. I will also mention that the staff had a number of conditions that we've worked with them, you know, over the time period working up to this meeting, and everything that they've suggested we've done. So a lot of safeguards, including the buffering and hours of operation and other things, we were willing to do. We want this to be a quality project, and we want you to welcome this new business into your community. With that, any questions for me? And I can testify, so facts too. And then we have several other folks here on the team.
Question, are the 9 conditions that staff has proposed, are you all committed to doing those and meeting those 9 conditions?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. My only other question, I don't know if you'd be able to answer it or if we need to talk to your team here, is I would like to know, I know you said the property has been on the market since 2003. I would like to know what has been the appetite for this piece of property. I know we heard a Live Local application that was kind of flirting with it, which definitely not in the direction we want to go. We want to go in the commercial direction, but wanted to see if there's been any other kind of bites at this apple that you all are aware of, or that Mr. Chimento might be aware of.
That's going to be Michael's, I think.
Okay, so I won't call him up here yet. If you don't have the answer, that's fine. I want to give the opportunity to my other council members to ask questions first. So Councilman Miller? Okay, Councilman Sullivan?
No more.
Good, okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would anybody else from the applicant's team like to speak?
Just for questions with these guys.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't stand, but I raised my hand, so
okay.
We're good. Michael Chimento, I represent Mural Corp, the owner of the property. They purchased it in 2003. They had been marketing it since that time. Obviously, we had a recession in 2008, so there was not a lot of activity until about 2017. In recent years, we have had a few people that have come under contract and other people who have, quote, kicked the tires. I think the most significant users have been roll-up door, industrial front office types of uses there. We have also had a small shopping plaza that was there, but I will tell you, based upon my recollection, that there weren't enough trips per day. I think Mr. Hansen suggested that it's really not a COM2 retail center, in our opinion. We have had a very deep dive on a facility, an apartment facility, and the COM2 under Live Local. We did some work with staff for a period of time. We did massing, and we had a plan, and they elected to go to another spot in Palm Coast. So we had that. We also had another storage facility on this piece of property too. So that has all been since about 2017 or 18. So in recent times, that's been the requested uses or inquiries, but it has been on the market for almost over 20 years now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Chimento? No?
I think there's mention, it was rezoned from COM3. Is that correct at some point?
I think Mr. Merrill said from the county's C3 when it was brought into the city.
Okay, gotcha. I was confused by that because our COM3 would allow for usage without an exception. So just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
My last question or set of questions is for the applicant team. And I ask this because I do think that this goes hand in hand with whether or not this is in the public interest, and that has to do with need and demand. So if you could speak to the market analysis for this type of storage facility, I'd be curious to know what the need is and how that would be satisfied by this facility opening in the city.
Yep. So I'm Natalie Smith with Johnson Development, based in Tampa. The address is 4350 West Cypress Street, Tampa, Florida. I'm a senior real estate manager for Johnson Development. Large function of my job is determining market strategy and therefore market need. So one of the biggest things we study is supply in a market, because supply is one of the biggest risks to our business and the performance of our facilities. We use proprietary databases that are solely focused on storage supply in a variety of markets across the country. Taking that information, we do focus on climate-controlled supply because we feel that that is what we're building, that's our product type. Non-climate really isn't the same product type, it's not the same customer. So to us, our focus is really on the climate-controlled supply in a market. That being said, we do calculate the rentable square footage per person in our trade areas. Our trade areas are 3 to 5 mile radiuses. Here we've determined it's a 3 mile radius around the site. The square footage per person is 3.9 square feet. The national average is 8 square feet per person. It's an industry standard that's considered market equilibrium. So that's where we feel that we're at 50% capacity, so to speak, for market equilibrium.
And why did you use 3 miles instead of 5?
It's based on population density in the area and just how we feel that customers will travel within a given area and market.
And have you done an analysis on how that will change once the facility is open as far as the per square feet per person?
Yes, so it would increase it to 5.7 square feet per person, so still under market equilibrium. And I'll also say, even though we feel the trade area is 3 miles, we do have the number for 5-mile radius, and it's even lower, it's 3.4 square feet per person, existing climate controlled.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the dais? Councilman Miller? And Councilman Sullivan?
One other data point I'll add quickly is also some of the information that we also look at in a market to determine need is occupancy in existing facilities. And while this information can be hard to find, it changes on a daily basis. Of the data we have available in comps within the trade area, they're operating at about 90% occupancy, and we consider physical stabilization of a building to be between 90 and 92%. So they're basically stabilized in our view. And at that point, they do start pushing rates on customers, so it actually helps the customer to have more supply in an undersupplied market because there's more purchasing power on their side.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Gambaro?
She answered a lot of the questions that I asked earlier, so
Okay.
thank you for that.
Thank you. Anything else from the applicant? No? All right, with that, we will go to step D in the process, which is public input. I do need to make this statement because public participation for these types of hearings is a little bit different than normal public participation. So testimony and presentation of evidence by the public with alternating speakers in support of and in opposition to the appeal and cross-examination after each witness, if so elected, is permitted. So essentially, I mean, I don't think we need to go back and forth, but just be aware that if you do give public input for this type of proceeding, you can then be asked questions, because if we as council consider certain things as evidence, both sides have to have the opportunity to ask if there's any objectifiable proof that any public speaker has. So does it mean you'll get asked questions? I don't want to discourage public comment in any way, but that is the process as outlined in the appeal. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. So with that, I will open it up for public participation if anybody has a comment on this agenda item. Come on up. Sir, if you could just state your name and where you live in the city of Palm Coast. You don't have to give the exact address, but the area that you live in Palm Coast.
My name is Robert Britt, B-R-I-T-T, and I live on Brownstone Lane.
Thank you.
And regarding the property on Pine Lakes, to me it looks too small for what they want to put. I don't know, I'm against it. And I don't know how high they want to go, but I'm against it, and that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, sir, for your comment.
Thanks.
Any other public comment on this agenda item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the dais. Any further questions based on the public comment? No. Okay, I do have one question. For this zoning, the specs of the building that they actually want to do, are they within the code, or would there need to be any exceptions for the height or anything like that?
So as we currently have the conceptual plan for it, this project went through a round of our technical review. They were meeting the setbacks that are required for the zoning. So during the technical site plan submittal, if the council reversed the planning board's decision, during that process, and we have comments to go through with all the different technical reviewers that we have on our team. It will, before it gets to the development order, it will have to meet all our requirements, so they're not looking for any kind of variances to any of our requirements that we have for dimensional standards under our land development code. So they'll be meeting the COM2 requirements.
Okay, thank you. At this point, the applicant is permitted to give a closing argument. Would the applicant like to present a closing argument? Okay, anything further from staff?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so at this point, we'll bring it back to the dais for discussion by city council. Any further discussion or deliberation that needs to occur?
No.
At this point, we would either need to make a motion to affirm the Planning and Development Board regulation action And there is language, if we could get that up, thank you. There is specific language that would, oh, it's not up. It's in the packet too. if you all
I've got
have
it,
in
Madam
front of
Vice Mayor.
So we either need to make a motion to affirm the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board action or reverse the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board action. And thank you for putting that up on the screen. So do we have a motion?
I do, Madam Vice Mayor. I move that the City Council find that the following facts presented and reviewed here are competent substantial evidence to reverse the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board's actions, that the application is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the Unified Land Development Code, and subject to the staff's recommendations.
Do we, second. All right, we have a motion by Councilman Gambaro and a second by Councilman Sullivan. Any further discussion? Council, do we need to go back out for public comment? All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gambaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Yes.
And I'll check with Mayor Norris.
No, since he has not been appeared through the entire facts, I would not ask for him right now.
So with that, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, staff.
And Mayor Norris is still not on.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will move on to item I-7, ordinance of the first read. Number 7 is ordinance 2025, amendments to the Code of Ordinance of the City of Palm Coast, Chapter 42, streets, roads, bridges, and other public places. Mr. Hurst?
Good morning, Vice Mayor and City Council. James Hurst, Director of Parks and Recreation. Today's presentation is the first read to amend the Code of Ordinance for Chapter 42, specifically to the prohibiting smoking in city parks. So a little bit of background. June 24 of 2022, Governor DeSantis signed the Florida Clean Air Act into law, which empowers municipalities to prohibit smoking in public places, but does exclude unfiltered cigars. And this is really to reduce public exposure to secondhand tobacco smoke. Other communities locally have put forth this ordinance, and it has passed. So the city of Flagler Beach has an ordinance. Flagler County also has an ordinance. And then I know of a few municipalities in Volusia County also passed this ordinance as well. So the next couple of slides is just some verbiage that will be amended in section 42-169, which is in Article 6 under city parks. It is unlawful for any person to smoke tobacco products or use vapor generating devices. Smoking means inhaling, exhaling, burning, or otherwise using tobacco product, including the use of electronic device or vapor generating devices. And then in subsection C and D, tobacco products include cigarettes, pipe tobacco, filtered cigars, chewing tobacco, snuff, snus, plant products, and then again, except for unfiltered cigars. And then on subsection D, vapor generating electronic devices are defined as any product that employs any electronic or a chemical or a mechanical means capable of producing vapor or aerosol from a nicotine product or other substance. And then with that actually concludes my presentation. It's pretty quick, but we're looking to approve the first reading to the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 42. So I'm here for any questions as well.
Okay, any questions, Councilman Miller?
Yeah, I guess my question would be, what is the punitive result of this ordinance? As in, you know, whether, I know the sheriff would be...
It'd be enforcement by the city manager, so if someone is smoking in the park, it'd be up to the city manager how we want to enforce this. Once could be maybe be a warning, or it could
warnings
be...
and then escalated fines
or trespass from the park. And
okay.
And we do have, in some of our playgrounds, I'm sure you've seen, we do have those signs from Tobacco-Free Flagler that do discourage smoking in the parks, and we can...
general recommendation there, right?
Yeah, but we're also looking to update some of our verbiage on the signage as well.
I was going to
around
ask
the parks,
if we could update, put per ordinance, whatever.
Yeah, we're doing a kind of a park-wide comprehensive change into our rule signs and everything, so this will be included.
Perfect.
Just as general discussion, I was surprised that this didn't exist already. I've seen, especially at sporting events that involve children, right, like Little League and, flag football and stuff like that, I've seen people smoking, and I'm like, hey, that's not allowed. And they're like, no, it is allowed, because there is no ordinance. So I'm glad we have this kind of coming, because I absolutely don't think that that should be around children in any way. Regardless of what anybody chooses to do at home or wherever else, but, in our parks and with our kids around, that should be something we shouldn't be doing, so.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Sullivan.
Yeah, I voted for this ordinance when I was on the county commission, so it would be strange for me not to vote for it now. But the question that came up back then, and I think it's applicable now, some people feel like, well, okay, I'm not going to smoke out where the kids are playing and all that, but if I go in a parking lot and get in my car, I can smoke. And that's not permitted as long as it's on part of the park.
Correct, yes.
The problem comes that sometimes the parks might have a parking area that's not part of the park property. So you have a little bit of a problem there, but in general, it includes everything, including the parking lots.
Okay,
Yeah,
do we have any parks that
I
don't have
don't,
parking
no,
lots?
no, we don't. They're all within city property, the parking lots, yeah.
Councilman Gambaro?
So if we have an event out here at Central Park and I decide I want to have a cigarette before an official event, before the event starts, I'd be in violation of that, correct?
Correct, yeah.
According to the way this ordinance is written? Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
All right, before we go out to public comment, do we have a motion to approve the ordinance?
I'll motion to approve as read.
Do we have a second?
Second.
With that, we'll go out to public comment.
Denise Henry, Palm Coast. The only question I couldn't read quickly, does that include medical marijuana? Because I think it should.
I'm not sure, James, or council.
Yeah.
It
Actually,
seems
you know what, I'm
specific.
sorry. Let's continue public comment and then we'll answer the questions at the end. I'm sorry, that was a good question. I'm curious to know that as well, but we'll finish public
Seems
comment
specific
first.
to tobacco specifically.
Hello, I'm Tyrese Gaines. I'm the Tobacco Policy Manager for Tobacco Free Flagler. Terry Williams is actually back there. She used to be in this position. She's been extremely important when it comes to just getting this on the table. So huge shout out to her. But in reference to your question, no, it does not cover medical marijuana, and that is something that is going to probably be an issue. Also, at the same time, we see that recreational marijuana keeps popping up on the ballot, so that will be something that we are going to run into, but I do think that this, in and of itself, is a huge step, and it will, you were talking about enforcement in a sense. Obviously, it's very hard to enforce something like this, but I think it's the mindset of our leaders, people like you guys, that just advocating for it is something that is huge and that we need. So I just wanted to say, appreciate you guys, appreciate you, James, for your hard work, and thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Anybody else for public comment? With that, I'll bring it back to the dais. Any further comment, questions?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback on that because, it's not going to be actively enforced, right? We're not going to have sheriffs rolling through parks looking for smokers and things like that. I think it's incumbent upon our community partners, especially the Sports Alliance, the leaders within those, to encourage and make sure that people participating in their events at our parks, adhere to this ordinance, so that it doesn't become kind of well, that's the rule, but we kind of do it anyways or whatever, because that's against the spirit of the rule, and then we'd have to step up enforcement or incur more costs essentially to try to enforce this even more. So just wanted to mention that.
I agree with you, and I would take it a step further that if any of our sports teams are consistently violent, and I don't know that they are, I'm not saying that they are, I'm not alluding that they are, but if we see a consistency in violation, we pull their permit. And I think we're perfectly within our ability to do that. So I think that's a good way to make sure that, you know, people are abiding by this. Correct, yes, exactly.
No, that is a good point.
Yeah, so, any other comment?
Madam Vice Mayor, so just to clear up that question on the marijuana question. So the ordinance is defined as a tobacco product is defined to include cigarettes, pipe tobacco, filtered cigars, chewing tobacco, snuff, snus, or other plant products, including marijuana, hemp, or other plant-based products intended for inhalation or lighted tobacco product.
Okay, so it does include marijuana? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Our ordinance or the state law?
Both.
Okay.
Based off of other ordinances as well.
And per Commander Woodward, it's not allowed in Florida either. So state law, state statute.
Perfect. Any other comment? Okay, thank you to staff for working on this. We'll obviously do a roll call vote in a moment, but I just want to thank you for this. And I want to thank those who advocate against the use of tobacco in the community as well, just generally, particularly for our young people. And I think that this is a great step to show how family friendly we are here in Palm Coast. With that, roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Gambaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. With that, we'll move on to ordinance item I8, ordinance of the first read, ordinance number 2025XX 49 and 51 Pinecrest Lane rezoning. Mr. Hanson?
Yes, ma'am. Michael Hansen from Community Development once again. For the sake of brevity, I'll try and get through this quickly for everybody. This particular project is a rezoning on Pinecrest Lane for 2 lots. Lots are addressed as 49 and 51. Collectively, the size of the project is 0.46 acres. The request is to rezone from our single-family residential 3 to our single-family residential 2. This case was recently heard by the planning board that recommended 7-0 to recommend the approval of the rezoning to the city council. The reason for the request for this rezoning is not that it does not increase any kind of density than what was originally platted. There's a little bit of history, and this map here is showing the current zoning, shows both properties circled in red as single-family 3, with the adjacent single-family residential 2 just to the south and kind of going throughout. It's kind of common throughout the neighborhood between either single-family residential 3 or 2. The proposed would change it to both single-family residential 2. So why the applicant's looking at doing this is both properties are approximately 9,000 square feet in size currently. Single-family residential 3 requires a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, where single-family 2 has a minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet. The lot width on both properties is 72 feet, so it's below the single-family residential 3's minimum of 80, but would meet the single-family residential 2's minimum of 60. It was asked during the planning board why the applicant couldn't just come in and request a variance, and under section 1.10 of our land development code regarding nonconformities, we're not able to address via variance a dimensional standard that would create a non-conforming lot in regards to minimum size requirements as far as size or width. So the variance option was kind of off the table for the applicants, so they came in for the request for the rezoning to make it single-family residential 2 so that both lots would be conforming so that they could potentially be developed with single-family residences.
So I just have a question.
Yes,
so
sir.
Under the current zoning, they are not capable of developing single family?
That's correct, because they would be non-conforming. So
Because they're not the lots are not large enough for that zoning.
That's correct. So originally, when they were platted, they were large enough to be developed, but there's a little bit of history which I'll go into here to get the council up to speed on the particular project. So both lots are owned by Flagler Habitat for Humanity. They're looking at developing each one with a single-family residential, single-family home that meets the existing setbacks for the single-family residential 3 zoning. So they're not looking for any kind of reductions to setbacks regarding the sides, the rear, the front. They're able to meet that based on a concept plan I'll show you here in a moment. But as you can take a look at the boundary survey, to the west of these 2 properties shows 2 existing homes. So historically, on the far west here, addressed at 45 Pinecrest, there's a home that actually encroaches into the property for 47. That house was built in 2005, and it was essentially created in a location where it shouldn't have been. It should have been interior to its own lot, but there was an error in surveying, and ultimately it got approved for development, and it was built. In 2017, the adjacent house at 47 Pinecrest was permitted, but there was a surveying error that looked at the plat, and based on I think the location of 45 here, measured it out so that the house ended up further away from the house that was built incorrectly on 45, and it pushed this house over, which once again, it ultimately got permitted and constructed. Now, this house doesn't encroach into the lot 49 itself. However, it was constructed in a way that it was built right on the property line. This error was brought to the attention of the surveyor, who happened to previously own both lots 49 and 51. An attempt to fix the situation went through a quitclaim process to deed off portions of each lot to essentially recut the pie to give the additional space over to 47 to give them a side yard. So that's kind of essentially a little area right here in the middle that is about 16 feet in width that is developed right now with a fence and a shed for the property over at 47. And through that, yes, sir.
They cut off part of this lot and then split the difference between the other 2 lots because they own both to make it even.
Yeah, so each lot was originally 80 feet wide. They cut off 8 feet from each lot, and through a quitclaim, that 16 feet has essentially been developed as a side yard. Now, throughout the process, I couldn't find any kind of deeded transfer of ownership from the surveyor of that 16 feet to the property owner over at 47, but in the transfer of ownership for 49 and 51, the previous property owner has sold those properties at 72 feet wide for each one over to the current owner of Habitat for Humanity. So it was kind of a interesting way that they tried to fix their surveying issue that they had on it, but by no means was it through any kind of process that the city had, which they should have contacted us to address it. And this rezoning won't fix any kind of potential civil matters between the property owners at 45 or 47, but solely focuses on the properties at 49 and 51. As far as the criteria for the evaluation, as I mentioned in the last presentation I did, we evaluate any of these applications with 5 criteria from section 2.0505, whether or not it's contrary or in conflict with the public interest. And since the existing neighborhood is intermixed with single-family residential 3 and 2 already, The request to rezone it to single-family 2, as it is immediately adjacent to the southeast of the particular subject property, does not seem to be in conflict or contrary to the public interest. In the rezoning, staff evaluated several policies, goals, objectives of the comp plan for this particular rezoning. And single-family residential 2 is consistent with that residential designation on our future land use map. The land use patterns are required to be efficient and not disproportionately increase the cost of providing and maintaining any kind of public facilities. These lots are existing. There was 2 lots originally when platted, so all the demand for use and concurrency monitored facilities have already been accommodated for it. It's in an older section of an ITT platted area. And so this proposed rezoning, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't increase any kind of density, so it's not creating any new lot. It's just essentially fixing the nonconformity of these lots 49 and 51 to allow them to be developed. When you take a look at the map for the zoning, typically you'll find the single-family residential 2 zoning, usually at areas that are around corners of the road, and these 2 particular lots are adjacent to that corner area, so it seemed compatible from a land use perspective, and taking a look at the existing patterns of zoning districts within the vicinity. And as I mentioned, since this was originally platted with ITT, the potable water and sewer services are already available to serve the project. There wouldn't be any kind of issue as far as if these properties were developed for single-family houses to be able to connect to utilities. So it's not looking at any other demand. And since these lots were originally designed to support single-family homes in the first place, this rezoning would not create any kind of unreasonable hazard or nuisance or issue. Now, during the construction of it, after potential approval for rezoning, they'll have to go through and apply for building permits so that they meet all our building code requirements that we have. So they'll be consistent with all the federal, state, and local building codes, Florida building code, and they'll have to go through permitting. Now, rezonings also have additional analysis based on 2.06.03. And this subsection A is similar to one of the second criteria for all. So as noted previously, the requested rezoning is consistent with our comprehensive plan. Since it was originally designed to be 2 single-family residential lots, there's no additional impact on the environment or natural resources, and it's not anticipated to have any kind of negative effect upon the economy of the area. In fact, having each lot that was intended to be developed with single-family houses be developed with a single-family house would potentially increase, the tax base for the city. The main issue here, as far as the analysis goes, is that it does, as mentioned, have that kind of interesting history with the history of a home being permitted in error and then subsequently another and such. So, and then the surveyor trying to fix the issue. But ultimately, because there's the adjacent single-family TO, it doesn't seem out of character for the neighborhood. So it's compatible with proximate uses, the developmental pattern, and it accomplishes our legitimate public purpose of allowing these lots that were intended to be developed with single-family residents to be developed with single-family residents, and by having it rezoned to single-family resident 2, it allows the properties to be conforming to our land development code. So that way they're not left in a non-conforming status. Public participation for the rezoning, the applicant hosted a neighborhood meeting that had 8 members of the public attend. Essentially, during that neighborhood meeting, the applicants were more concerned whether or not this rezoning would create an increase in density, whether or not there'd be townhouses or quadplexes. And the applicant explained that it would essentially just allow the lot 49 and 51 to be developed as single-family residence, and that they still have to meet all the existing setbacks, so that didn't seem to have any additional issues as far as from a public participation standpoint. So during the planning board's public hearing, there was actually no members of the public that showed up to speak on the actual rezoning request during that public hearing. As far as next step, this particular recommendation coming from the planning board, the council will make a vote for potential approval or denial, but this project, as it's an ordinance, will come back for a second reading. We're looking at June 3rd. So as I mentioned, the planning board made a vote 7-0 in favor. They did have one concern, though, that they explained that they were worried about adjacent property owners having smaller setbacks. So what's notably different between the single-family residential 3 and single-family residential 2, the rear setback in single-family residential 3 is 10 feet for a minimum setback, where in single-family residential 2 it's 6.5 feet. So they were concerned about somebody building the house further back in the lot and being closer to the rear neighbor. The applicant included these proposed site plans, and based on the conceptual site plans that they're essentially, I've been told, ready to submit for building permits upon the approval of the rezoning, are 54.83 feet from the rear property line. They're meeting the existing 25-foot front setback as well, and the side yards are required to be 7.5 feet at a minimum, and they're showing 11.75 foot side yards on both sides of the property. So they're well within the existing single-family residential 3 and proposed single-family residential 2 zoning minimum setback requirements. Our recommendation here is from the planning board that the city council find the rezoning consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommend the approval for the city council to rezone 0.46 acres from single-family residential 2 to single-family residential 2 zoning district. And the applicant's team is in attendance.
Before the applicant comes up, do we have any questions for staff from the dais? Councilman Miller?
No, I think it's pretty clear.
Before we move on, we probably should just do, it's quasi-judicial, so any ex parte communication.
Negative.
None.
None.
Does the applicant wish to speak at all?
Good morning, Michael Shimento for the applicant. Thank you all for having us here. We've been working on this for about a year because of trying to figure out what the history is. So I just want to thank you guys for rolling up your sleeves and helping this group figure out how to get this project done. So we have nothing to offer. Your staff did a great job. We're here to answer any questions, but we would appreciate your approval so we can get started. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
No.
All right. Then we will ask for a motion, and then we'll go out to public comment. Do we have a motion to approve or deny the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Sullivan, second from Councilman Gambaro. We will go out to public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item?
Ms. Pontieri, can we just Mr. Sullivan just said so moved, but your question was to approve or deny.
Oh, you're right. Would you make a more clear motion, Councilman Sullivan?
Move the first reading of the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board determined that proposed rezoning application number 6018 is consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommended approval to City Council to rezone plus or minus 0.46 acres from the SFR 3 zoning district to the SFR-2 zoning district.
Second.
Thank you. All right, now we'll go out to public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. Anything further? No? All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gambaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
With that, we'll move on to item J, number 9, resolutions. Resolution 2025-XX, amending capacity reservation policy for payment for utility contribution in aid of construction fees. Mr. Del Lorenzo.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, City Council. Jason DiLorenzo, Chief of Staff. I don't have a presentation for this particular item. In 2015, City Council affirmed adding an Option B payment plan for residential subdivisions. This is located on page 270 of your packet. And the payment plan allowed developers to put down 20% upfront and then pay the remainder of their utility CIAC fees over time. Most of those developments ended up building out well before their time ran out, and we collected them at building permit. This change, and the reason why we're bringing it to City Council, was because it was originally affirmed by City Council, and we've updated since the new impact fee, CIAC fee ordinance was completed. And so this would remove Option B from our standard operating procedures. We've rewritten those, and they're in your packet as well. And then I'd like to bring to your attention in the resolution itself, in section 1, where we've added some economic development language related to commercial projects. And this is on page 269 of your packet. And it says this: the city may make payment schedule exceptions for commercial projects that are determined by the City Council to create jobs and promote the city's economic development and business-friendly objectives, subject to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection approval of the permits required to connect to the system. So, in essence, this would may allow City Council to decide if they would like a alteration to the payment schedule for commercial projects that are deemed to create jobs and promote economic development in the community. All other applications would be subject to standard operating procedures for CIAC payments, and which would have them pay all fees up front.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Del Lorenzo. Any questions from the dais?
I don't have any questions, just kind of commentary, though it may involve a question that I've previously asked you. So functionally, we see that in most cases, these are already paid up front, correct?
For residential subdivisions, almost always they use the option B, which is a 20% upfront, and then the time schedule, which is the second 20% at 36 months, and then the balance at 48 months. What I was trying to explain is that we usually, it's rare that we get through that whole schedule, right? Because they're building at a pace that's faster than the schedule, so they're just paying at building permit. We're collecting all the fees at the time of construction.
Yeah.
For commercial projects, or I should say non-residential projects, you would pay it all up front. That would include multifamily projects because they're usually built all at one time, right? They erect the entire project at one time, so there's no point in having a payment schedule for that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out, and then also, but I have zero problem with codifying it, that it should be front-loaded. This was, kind of a policy of the times, and so, I think it's appropriate now that it comes the other way, kind of swings back.
Okay. Councilman Gambaro, any comment or questions?
Yeah, I think the language of section 1 also gives us flexibility as we have the SAP discussions with regards to tax incentives and bring in, further economic development or vitality here to the city. It puts us in a bit of position to take a look at those cases, case by case. Thank you.
I agree with the comments so far.
Okay, Mr. De Lorenzo, I have a couple questions. So just to be very clear, so for the public, these are the impact fees, correct? And this is only for utilities?
Correct.
Okay, and so what we're doing with this is we are taking away the ability for the payment plan for utility impact fees for residential dwelling units, right?
Correct.
So for the proposed amendment from staff with regards to the commercial projects, which I think everybody up here appreciates, so thank you for being mindful of that and kind of the priorities of this council. I find this to be a little bit loose as far as subjectivity, and so I'm curious as to whether or not we need to then, on the backs of this, create a policy for review criteria or whatever that means, because whatever it requires, because it says the city may make a payment schedule exception for commercial projects that are determined by the city council to create jobs and promote the city's economic development. Well, I find that to be very subjective because, for instance, we just saw a storage unit come before us. It's commercial, it's going to generate a lot more revenue than we're currently seeing, but doesn't necessarily create a whole lot of jobs. So kind of defining that, and I'm not saying it has to be a part of this, but further defining that so that we have some very clear criteria as to what this means.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. And Craig McKinney is going to give you a presentation, I believe, on May 27th. And I think through that process, we can try to decide is there a floor that you'd like for those to come forward, or really all incentive projects? So is there a floor for them? So I think we'll be working through that with City Council on the 27th.
So then, thank you for that. And let's just make sure, because I don't want to forget, that we definitely make sure this is addressed during his presentation. Council, do we need to reference a policy or anything like that in this ordinance? In other words, do we need to say something to the effect of the city may make a payment schedule exception per policy for, in a court, just so that we take out the ability for someone to use this as a sword if technically they're not really creating jobs, but in their subjective opinion they are?
Yeah, so it's a resolution, and so I don't see any problems with that if the council wants to go that route.
Okay, so whoever, if anybody wishes to make a motion to approve this resolution, they would need to make it with the amended language that the schedule, it would be a schedule exception per city council policy for commercial projects, right? Okay. Any other questions?
No, I agree with everything you just said in terms of that, and I think it's smart to have it referenced specifically so that there is no getting around it in some way or another. Obviously the way we think may be different than someone else thinks, and if they want to change that, then they have to go through the process of changing it. I do agree also with the threshold. Obviously we want to be encouraging business that brings jobs, right? And a lot of jobs and a lot of economic development. So while all economic development is good, I think, in our current state, I want to make sure that we're sufficiently rewarding those larger projects and encouraging them so that we kind of reserve this for those types of projects so that, we can make some big changes to the tax base if we can.
Yeah, job creation, I think, is a priority for all of us up here. So anything that we can do to promote and encourage that in our community, obviously a step in the right direction. So if there's no further comment, we will, I'll ask for a motion before going out to public comment.
Vice Mayor, I move approval of this resolution with the caveat, the policy caveat that we discussed.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. We will go out to public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item? Mr. McDonald.
Good morning, or a little bit that's left of it. So we're talking about something that's near and dear to my heart and something I've been talking to all you guys about for quite some time now. And so what you're seeing here is that this is nothing more than evidence of how we've been bled, out of our utility fund by giving a free ride to developers, not to builders, but to developers that develop properties. This is unfair to all the ratepayers. This has been going on now for 10 years. I remember when it went in 2015, and I was aghast to find out that, that it was still going on. I thought that we got rid of this. We just had the most roaring 10 years of building that we've had in a long time in Palm Coast, okay? And these guys were still taking a free ride on the taxpayers. This is outrageous, okay? So here's one of my suggestions is, anytime you make any type of abatement like this, only make it for a year, and then look at it the next year and see if you want to put it in, you know, it's kind of a very short sunset law, so to speak. So, but as long as we're on the subject, let's talk about, you know, the next phase where we should be going. The impact fees are something that the state has their fingers on. I understand that. But the tap fees are not. Okay, so again, you've got 3 tap fees, okay, that you charge in order to get to our utility system. So I talked to you before about the fact when you divide out the 19,000 units and the $620 million, it came out to around, you know, $33,000 per unit, and that doesn't take care of our problem. This is a perfect example of why we've got the problems that we've got. And so what you need to do is this, you need to change your policy so that when you give out a development order, they pay those tap fees at the time. Otherwise, they don't get the development order. Why? I can tell you, as a developer for years, as soon as I got something change in zoning, okay, if I took something from agriculture to multifamily or something like that, you can then take it to a lender, and then you can obviously cash in on that. And so if the developer's cashing in on it, well then why should the ratepayers give them a free ride? Again, this is another, you're seeing a small example of a free ride that was given out back in 2015. So we should think about the fact of how the world and finance really works. If the developer gets his money up front, okay, why shouldn't you get your money up front? Just like with the schools, okay? If I show up with some kids, you've got to take my kids. And so consequently, if you gave out a development order, you've got to give me sewer and water. And so consequently, why not make them pay up front for it and be prepared on it? So we need fees right at the time of the development order, okay? And I'd like to leave you with that thought, and thank you for getting rid of this.
Thank you for your comment. Any further public comment?
Yeah, this is kind of situation, I believe, related to recently announcing that any transaction for bill paying, even electronic through the ACH or AH.
Actually, sir, that's a different subject.
No, hold on a second. You're gonna charge residents fee, but you allow to the developer, constructor, commercial properties not paying full amount, which if you put that full amount in the bank, you're gonna get enough money to cover expenses what people paying you bill for. That's my issue with that one. You allow commercial, go easy, but you charge residents.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you. Any further public comment? Bring it back to the dais. Any response?
I just had a question for the Chief of Staff about in these tiered time periods, if there is an adjustment to the CIAC fees in between, do they pay at the time of the permit application fee, or do they pay the new fee?
And they pay the new fee, sir. So, yeah, there would be the potential for us to collect fewer dollars based on this, because over that period of time, if there was a change to the CIAC fees before build out, that could occur.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that I was trying to make a point. It was just something that like sparked, I think when Mr. McDonald was talking, sparked a question in my mind about how that worked. I think that's it, yeah.
Okay.
If I may, Madam, the only thing I would add is that connection fees are paid at the time of utility agreement for subdivisions as well. So it's a little bit, they're all calculated based on the ERCs, an equivalent residential connection. So either the actual residential unit or a conversion for the non-residential. And then the connection fees are all put into an agreement that they have to sign. There's a limited amount of time to pay for that because otherwise it has to be recompleted. There's a application fee, And that all happens before the permit is submitted to the FDEP.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comment? No.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I look forward to having a more in-depth impact fee discussion at next week's workshop.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll piggyback on that a little bit. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves for next week, but I think that as we look at the 3 impact fee studies that will be before us, and we have to make some pretty big decisions on those, that'll have a lot of implications in our community, not only looking at the amounts, but also the payment schedule for those, because we have some interests that we need to balance here. We need to balance the affordability of housing in our community for our first responders, our teachers, many of our city workers, with the correct pace of growth. And so as we look to balance those things, I think we need to, and I appreciate the suggestion of sunsetting these types of payment schedules so that they don't go on for 10 years, because I can understand the place that they have, but not in a perpetual state. And if we hadn't brought this up, and I'll give credit to our our acting city manager, she brought this to my attention, and I immediately was not happy about it. So, you know, if she had not brought it up, I probably wouldn't have known about it. I don't know that this council would have known about it. So just keeping our finger on the pulse of these types of things and shortening the time period under which they're permitted, I think, is very important. So, you know, to me, taking this step is a show for the residents that we're putting them first, and that we recognize that, you know, everybody is kind of undergoing some growing pains, and we want to make sure that all of our developers and builders in the community are paying what they should be paying to grow within our community. So with that, if there's no further comment, we'll just do a voice vote. I'm sorry, Councilman Gambaro, did you have something else? No? Okay. So we have a motion that was made by Councilman Gambaro, and I believe seconded by Councilman Sullivan, to approve the resolution.
Did we do a motion on this?
Yeah, we did, before we went to public comment. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Gambaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Last thing on the agenda for items to vote on, item K, consent. Did anybody have any questions about anything on the consent agenda or want to pull anything on the consent? Did
Ms.
I miss
Pontieri,
something?
we skipped one.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did skip. Resolution J10, approving an interlocal agreement between Flagler County and the City of Palm Coast regarding the method of distribution of the local option fuel tax between the county and municipalities within the county.
It's me.
Okay, City Manager.
Yes, this is just a renewal of the already established methodology with Flagler County and the surrounding municipalities. Due to the fact that we have the lion's share of lane miles and population, we get the lion's share of the funding for that local option fuel tax.
Which is that $1 million per year that we have kind of dedicated for road.
It's a little bit more than that. It funds your streets improvement fund. So there's nothing here that changed. The ILA was expiring and we are just renewing it.
Is the formula based on something statutory? I mean, do we have any control over the formula as far as how much of the pie we get?
Well, we get 71% of the pie. It's not a state methodology. No, it is something that is agreed upon in our ILA, this ILA.
Okay, thank you. And you said that's based on lane mileage and what else, population?
Percentage. It's an average of the two?
No, it's just considered, it's considered in both of those. It's not an average.
How did
Looked
they?
like it was kind of an average.
Yeah, because we have 65 and 77, and the
Came down to
final
71.
comes to like 72, which would be about halfway in between. In either case, how long does this go?
The ILA,
Yes.
it is, sorry, I'm looking in your packet there. Section 20 is the term. The term of this interlocal shall commence upon the effective date and remain effective until the until amended or rescinded by the parties.
So perpetually until we decide to change it.
Yes.
I don't know if it's appropriate, one, because I see there's a, and maybe I missed it, there's a portion about lane mile reporting, and so it looks like yearly, it's annually adjusted, so that percentage goes up and down.
Yes.
And then in terms of population, I'm assuming we go off of census, so that would only change once every 10 years. But I don't see anything, and maybe I missed it, in here about the population being adjusted.
So that's in section 4, allocation adjustments, revisions to the distribution formula caused by additions or deletions of lane miles maintained by each jurisdiction and including the latest estimate population of each jurisdiction as published by the University of Florida or U.S. Census.
Okay, so we could adjust that more regularly. I don't
Yes,
know
with-
how often UF produces that Bieber with actual population data.
Well, it says it shall be distributed per this formula to each to each jurisdiction prior to June 1st of each calendar year, so it seems it's at least.
They do.
Annually.
They send us an email and we certify those two figures.
Okay, yeah, so as long as it's regularly updated so that if, as we assume we will continue to grow and build more roads, we should receive a higher percentage. So I'm good with that as long as that's the case.
Any other questions or comments?
Pretty straightforward.
All right, with that, do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Miller, second by Councilman Gambaro. We'll go out to public comment on this agenda item. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any further comment from council? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gambaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, now we're at consent. Consent agenda, item K, items 11 through 12. Do we have any questions about anything in the consent, or would anybody like to pull anything? I have a question on the item number 11. It's the collective bargaining agreement. I do want to say thank you to Chief Berryhill and to Acting City Manager for all the work that you all did to get us to this point. The only question I had is high level without getting into the details. Do we know what the annual implications on the budget for the changes made to this will be?
Yes, those figures are around 600,000, just between all the calculations between the new paramedic incentive, as well as some of the other changes within the agreement. But it's important to note that we agreed that it would not be effective until your fiscal year 26 budget. So many of the things do not start until October 12th, which is the start of the new fiscal year. So we are a year behind on this agreement for this contract, and those expenditures will be in your fiscal year 26 budget.
So we don't have to find $600,000 in
Right now,
25.
this very minute, no.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions or comments about this or any other items? Yes, Councilman Sullivan.
Item 13, the resolution piggybacking on the City of Palatka contract for some studies that are going to be done. It's not a lot of money. It's $160,000. I always worry when you piggyback, are we going to get full service that we need, given that we're not talking about, we're talking about people helping us out doing things. And so just maybe, I think that Lauren explained it to me, but maybe just a little explanation on it.
Yes, sir.
What we're
So
getting.
this is your consultant, JB Pro, that just completed our update to the comprehensive plan, and they are eagerly ready to get started for the rewrite of the land development code to make sure those policies are complementary in having regulations for it. So we're moving forward with the same consultant that we had for the comp plan.
Okay, and the services we're going to get, we're satisfied that they'll be able to produce what we need
Yes, sir.
at that price.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments about the consent?
I just want to also give a shout out to Helena and Renina who helped with the collective bargaining
Oh,
agreement
yes,
as well.
thank you, Renina, Ms. Fuller, I appreciate it, and Helena as well, always. Thank you for that. All right, with that, does anybody have a motion to, oh, I'm sorry, you have to go out, yeah, we have to make a motion first. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Do we have a second? Thank you. And now we'll go out to public comment. Any public comment on the consent? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. Anything else?
Nothing.
All in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 My comments.
Madam Clerk?
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we will go out to the public for final public participation. Do we have any final public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. Discussion by council for matters not on the agenda. Councilman Miller? Our sports report.
So, stand by.
Da-da-da.
Well, unfortunately, the Lady Pirates lost their, I think it was the regional finals game. I believe it was 1-0, so again, a very close game, and they did a great job all year. So I think that puts them at 2 losses for the entire year. So they did a great job representing our community and Matanzas High School. Florida Gators, Lady Gators, swept their regional, winning the last 3 games in run rule fashion. So move on to super regionals as the number 3 seed. I believe the number 1 seed lost, so that puts us as the second highest remaining seed in the tournament. Baseball team took 2 out of 3, I think, are in the SEC championship now. So in line for a regional host after starting 1-11 in conference play. So they've come on hot recently. So excited to see them go forward.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Councilman Sullivan.
Yeah, I did attend the disadvantaged, the public transportation system we have in the county, which is for, it's called disadvantaged travel, and that meeting was last on 7 May. I think it's important for people to understand that is the public transportation system we have in the county, the 30 vehicles that you see driving around. They're doing better on drivers, and I think it's something we ought to look at, because a lot of times people say, what's the public transportation system? And how you get to use it. You just can't decide someday I need a ride. You have to be on the list and so on and so forth. So a briefing on that, like you were mentioning on something the last meeting, Ty, maybe a briefing on that in public might be good. Just to,
Yeah, I think when, I think it was maybe TPO community workshop, they were talking about specific potential future uses for public transportation.
just since you asked, on the TPO thing, what they found was in Volusia County, where they have a metro system, that they're working their way back towards kind of what we do, which is door to door, because a lot of the people want to use the system. It's hard for them to, say, walk to a bus stop or things like that. So there are benefits to the way we're going here, and as we've talked before, we're not ready to go to a bigger bus.
Yeah, they had talked about, and it kind of took me aback a bit. They had talked about kind of like shared use vehicles, right? Similar to that, or kind of like the group Ubers and things like that. And I was like, well, that seems very risky. And they did point out that all buses and things like that are a bunch of people getting on a bus together, and you never know what's going to happen on it. So it's kind of already the risk factor that exists right now. But they mentioned that the trend is to go more to this door-to-door, multiple people using vehicles at the same time, rather than kind of like a fixed route situation.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Gambaro?
All right, great. Fellow council members, I'd like to use this opportunity to speak directly to the residents of the city of Palm Coast. As your city councilman, I feel compelled to address the deeply concerning situation currently unfolding in our city government. Recent events have created significant disruption to our city's operations, damaged public trust, and diverted valuable attention and resources away from the important work of serving our residents. It is with a heavy heart but a firm commitment to transparency that I share these thoughts with you today. I joined the Palm Coast City Council in full accordance with all established city and state procedures through a process that was carefully designed and unanimously approved by the previous council. My appointment followed all legal requirements and proper protocols as outlined in our city charter and Florida state law. Despite this lawful and transparent appointment, Mayor Norris has chosen to file a frivolous lawsuit against the city that he was elected to serve, the supervisor of elections who upholds our democratic processes, and myself. This unprecedented legal action appears to be nothing more than a calculated attempt to deflect attention from the serious and well-documented concerns about his own troubling conduct in office since taking the oath in November of 2024. The facts in this matter speak clearly for themselves and have been documented through proper channels. An independent and thorough investigation confirmed that Mayor Norris attempted to force the resignation of our senior city staff without council approval or knowledge, a clear and direct violation of our charter, which explicitly outlines the separation of powers within our government. This comprehensive investigation, conducted with the utmost professionalism and impartiality, led to a formal ethics complaint signed by 4 council members and culminated in an official vote of no confidence and censure in April of 2025. These actions were not taken lightly, but were necessary responses to protect the integrity of our city government. Rather than addressing these substantiated findings in a constructive and reflective manner, Mayor Norris has responded by systematically abandoning key mayoral responsibilities that our citizens expect and deserve. He has publicly refused to fulfill council liaison appointment duties that are essential for coordination between the council and various city departments and community organizations. Even more troubling, he has physically removed his belongings from the shared council office, symbolically and literally withdrawing from collaborative governance. These actions represent a troubling and unprecedented abdication of fundamental duties he swore to uphold when taking office and deprive our citizens of full representation in their government. Perhaps most concerning to many residents and officials alike is the consistent pattern of behavior that has emerged throughout Mayor Norris's brief tenure. The mayor has repeatedly made unsubstantiated and serious accusations against respected local business leaders without providing evidence when requested. He has promoted unfounded conspiracy theories involving federal agencies, supposedly targeting him personally, creating unnecessary alarm and division within our community. Furthermore, he is engaged in inappropriate personal attacks against fellow council members on social media platforms, referring to duly appointed officials as illegal and illegitimate. These attacks undermine the very foundation of civil discourse that effective governance requires. It is worth noting that even Sheriff Staley has publicly cautioned the mayor about the seriousness of making criminal accusations without supporting evidence, a warning that speaks volumes about the gravity of this situation. Palm Coast deserves and should demand leadership that unites our diverse community rather than divides it, that builds productive relationships rather than tears them down, and that focuses on solutions rather than creating new problems. Our growing city faces real and complex challenges that require thoughtful collaboration amongst elected officials, professional city staff, community organizations, and engaged citizens. The current atmosphere of hostility and distrust created by the mayor's actions makes addressing these challenges unnecessarily difficult and threatens the progress we've worked so hard to achieve together over many years of community building. I want to assure all the residents that I remain steadfastly committed to working constructively with all stakeholders to address the important issues facing our community. This includes improving our infrastructure, ensuring public safety, promoting economic development, protecting our natural environment, and maintaining the quality of life that has attracted so many to call Palm Coast home. My commitment to these priorities remains unwavering despite the distractions created by this situation. I deeply believe in Palm Coast's tremendous potential and will continue to serve with the same dedication, integrity, and collaborative spirit that I have brought to my previous roles in public service, in our community, and in the service of our nation. I submit these remarks with the sincere respect and commitment to our shared future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gambaro. All right, I do have a few comments. Anything else from the dais?
Sorry, I just had one thing to add. I did attend MPOAC training, which is for municipal or metropolitan planning organizations. So in the TPO, it's training on specifically funding from the state and federal level and kind of how the organizations work in general. So got a lot of good information. I got some of it back that I brought back with me, and we'll share also informational emails that we received kind of with follow-up resources and things like that with the rest of the council so that we all have that.
Yeah, you've taken, I think you've gone above and beyond as far as keeping us informed and your attentiveness to those efforts. So thank you for that. I appreciate it because it's very important for the representation of our city and our county.
Yeah, trying to get more money from our regional area to Palm Coast specifically to help with our roads. Some of them, Old Kings 100, are FDOT managed roads, and so that money is critical to getting those upgraded in the way that we feel is necessary, even though in the past they have been less of a priority for the regional area.
Agreed, yeah. In response to you, Councilman Gambaro, I just want to thank you and the rest of council, including the mayor, for trying to keep the business, at least from the dais, the focus, the city business focus, and keep things moving forward. There's a lot happening in our city, a lot of great things happening in our city, and we just really need to keep the wheels of progress going and stay focused on what's best for the residents. And I also want to thank staff in that regard as well for continuing to stay focused, keep your heads down, keep doing your jobs, and keep really putting the residents first because that's why we're all here. Couple things I did want to bring up from the dais. First, I do want to send my condolences. I was just made aware of this, but Marineland Mayor Gary Inks did pass away over the weekend. So prayers for his family and for that community as they suffer his loss. Wanted to touch on the credit card fees and ACH and EFT fees to utilities. So couple things. There's been some questions out in the public, rightfully so, with regards to some comments that were made during staff presentations on whether or not those fees, those credit card surcharges essentially, were already included in the rates. It's my understanding that at one point we had budgeted for those, but that was during the first fee proposal, which was higher than what council actually approved. So city manager, if you could just clear that up, I want the residents to know that we're essentially not double dipping by imposing these surcharges.
That is correct. First, the city does not collect any of those transaction fees, so that is through the third-party company. We are just not absorbing those costs in the budget. And to your point, Vice Mayor, that was not approved in the utility rate analysis in March of 2023, sorry. In the first utility rate analysis, those fees were not approved. And what was only adopted was to maintain CPI increases for utility operations. And when we came back to you for the gap rate analysis, it only looked at R&R dollars as well as capital cost. Operating was to continue at the CPI. And that is really difficult for the utility operating budgets at this time. We have the expanded plant opening. We are getting really close. It's already begun seeding and the membranes are coming online. So all of that has increased in operating expenditures. So we're already at a deficit in the utility operating budgets because those rates were not approved. And so to your point, the transaction fees would have been in there in the past, but those rates were not approved.
Okay, thank you. And so it's my understanding too that because that we approved a lower, albeit a lower raise than what was initially proposed, utilities is having to do a pretty hard look organizationally and operationally at costs and things of that nature, correct?
Yes, we're looking at now of trying to cut at least $2.5 million out of the budget before it even gets to you.
Before, in this budget cycle?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. I would make a motion, well, actually, I would have to pass the gavel. I'm going to pass the gavel. Thank you. I would make a motion to eliminate the ACH and EFT fees. We have a fee of 43 cents for the utility bills for ACH and auto payment. And the reason I would like to make a motion to remove these is we should be encouraging, in my opinion, automatic payments. You know, we're losing $700,000 a year in the credit card fees. I think that those should not be consumed by the city, but I think we need to be encouraging auto payments and EFT. So I'd make a motion to eliminate that surcharge being passed on to the customer or to the resident. So may I get a second?
Second for discussion.
You can't second because you have the gavel.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, you have the gavel, sorry.
So what is my move here? What am I supposed to be doing?
Discussion.
Yeah, so open it up to discussion.
So I would just, before moving forward to something like this, what's the financial impact? What's the analysis on that?
Yeah, I agree to kind of know, and I don't know if, is Helena here?
No, Helena is out on vacation this week, and Vice Mayor, City Council, if you don't mind, just providing with me the direction that you would like to go forward with, and let us go back and look at the mechanics within those contracts and see what we can do, what we can't do, and then what would maybe need to come back to you for official approval. Because we're in uncharted territory. I don't know specific languages, and to deep dive into those contracts and work with the vendor on if we can piecemeal, we want this, but we don't want that. We need to get that firm from them.
So
We signed a new annual contract based on the previous vote, is that correct?
Well, you approved the contract, but then you gave us direction that you didn't want to have those fees absorbed anymore.
So it won't change our contract at all?
I don't know. I just really want to look into the contractual language and see what we can do and what we can't do. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
I get what you're saying. So essentially, they're charging us the fee regardless, and it's whether we decide to pay it or pass it on
Correct.
is the question.
Right. Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily, unless they could offer us some relief on some of those fees. I don't know.
Right, and I don't know if there's various processes on the back end or the front end or any of that that we would need to work through. So I absolutely hear your direction and want to make sure that we accomplish that, but just want to make sure we do it appropriately in lines with the contract with the vendor.
My only concern is from a timing perspective, June 1st is when these are supposed to take place, right?
Yes, and I can bring it back to you on Tuesday once we've gone into that. And if it's no issue, then I have your direction. We will move forward.
That was my motion. I don't want to, but we'll have to, I'm happy to withdraw the motion for now and then bring it back. I just want to make sure there will be enough time to implement whatever it is we need to implement or rewind whatever it is we need to rewind before June 1st, so that if we are going to move forward with not charging that specific fee, that we do that.
The other question is, do we have to notice this again because it would constitute a change to that fee schedule?
You mean, we would have to inform the residents again?
Yeah, so my understanding is that we mailed out a mailer as part of their previous bill, right?
No, that was for the rate adjustment.
Oh, for
that
that.
is what's required
For like the
rate.
connection
This is just
Right.
processing fee that payment to charges. That's what we're talking about right now.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Vice Mayor, I support your instincts on this. I'd just like to see the data and make sure we're clean. And
Yeah,
if
what
we-
the cost
well, yeah,
is,
if we could
yeah.
take a look at it for next week.
Right, and if we do it for, delay till next week, is there time that the bills will go out with that reduction?
Well, I think it's, if payment is made from June 1st onward right now, the fee will be imposed, right?
June 1st onward.
June 1st,
yes.
right? So I think so.
My understanding too is that if you initiate the bill pay through your bank, like some banks have the like bill pay tab or whatever, and you do that, there is no fee as well, and it's essentially the same thing in ACH.
Right.
I don't know if also additional education on how to do that, to direct residents to do that, because I think to your point, we're encouraging these auto pays, right? That you set it and forget it, you walk away, your bill's paid automatically every month, without fees. And now potentially there's going to be fees incurred, so people will then migrate to some other form of payment, probably check. Is check and cash are basically the non-feed payments, and most people don't walk around with, you know, a couple $100s in cash, so I would assume check will end up being the primary payment form. When there's still an option to pay ACH just initiated by the bank, kind of making it easier for the residents, I think would maybe go a long ways to having them stay on that pattern rather than writing a check or something else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, based on Assistant City Manager, or Acting City Manager, I'm sorry, based on your suggestion, I will withdraw my motion. Withdraw the second. Thank you. If you could bring us back, thank you, this information. And also to, I can't remember who, Councilman Gambaro, maybe, to his point about what the financial implication, if we could just figure out how many residents pay right now via ACH for that, I think, is it 43 cents or 48 cents? 43, thank you.
It was 43 for ACH and something else, right?
E-check per transaction.
E-check, yeah. Which, to the point, and I realize we're going through a third party, but banks don't charge any fees for that. And so I get that there's the reaction is, why should I pay 43 cents if a bank doesn't charge this fee? But it's the third party that charges the fee.
Correct.
And really, I think the hit on the city is minimal compared to the credit card fees. That would be my inclination based on how a lot of people pay, but also based on just the amount, itself. So, but I appreciate you bringing that back to us. And then,
percent of $200 is $6, whereas this is 43 cents. So.
right, yeah, it's per transaction. Want to also bring up a couple events we have in the community this week. We've got Vincent's Clubhouse is doing a fundraiser with FCAR at their location in the European Village on Friday the 23rd. It's a night in San Juan. Sounds festive. So check that out. It's a really good organization.
There's some dancing.
Yeah, they say there will be dancing. Not by me, that's for sure. History in the Park at the Palm Coast Historical Society Museum. Go check that out at Holland Park on Saturday. And then we've got Pool Safety Day at the Aquatic Center this Saturday as well. And I really want to encourage people to go out for that. Drownings in our state, while I think they are going down, are still pretty prevalent. So take your family out to Pool Safety Day on Saturday at the Aquatic Center. With that,
I guess there's a turtle dedication, I think.
oh, there is on Thursday. Yeah.
10 o'clock.
Is it
on
Hetty?
Colbert.
Hetty? Is that the name of the
It's a
turtle?
replacement of the one that was stolen.
Yeah. So that's somebody mentioned
Stole the turtle?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Quilty.
Quilty. That's right. Yeah. So there was a comment from one of our FC3 members that was pretty funny. He said he was going to have shirts made with the milk carton with the turtle on it, missing. So I thought that was pretty funny. Legal counsel.
Memorial Day,
Oh, yes.
our Memorial Day ceremony.
I'm going to let city manager hit that, yes, but I want to go over to Marcus.
I have nothing. Thank you,
Okay,
Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Just a few things, just reporting on on the emergency and sole source purchases, if anybody had any questions related to those.
I did. I'm sorry, acting city manager. It was the last one. The solar
Yes.
trash cans or something. What is that?
So that is a pilot program that we are trying to do to look at offsetting cost for staff to drive around and replace bags every single day. So we're looking at a new trash can that can improve efficiency, et cetera. So we're testing them out in a few locations.
We already have some, right?
Yes,
Okay. I was
Okay,
going to say
so-
not fully new.
So this is just a pilot program.
correct.
What is you said there's one out here, right?
Yes, there's one here.
And where's the other location?
I think it's on one of our trails,
Okay.
one of our more, community center, sorry.
Community Center? Just to highlight that in case anybody wants to check them out.
Okay, thank you. That's the only question I had.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple other things. Tonight is Food Truck Tuesday, benefiting the Cedar Bridge Foundation. And then Memorial Day ceremony is on Monday at Heroes Park. And then a couple of operational things. We have launched our property tax breakdown in our financial transparency dashboard. So now you can go on the city's website and see where your property taxes go by percentage. Really cool. So great job by finance and IT. And then Doge, I mentioned before, and I want to just thank all the staff for helping with that, and Mr. Mansell for leading the charge and for project managing that piece. And then next week on your agenda, we will be reviewing transportation, parks, and fire impact fees. And there are several public and stakeholder meetings scheduled the next 2 weeks. So if you hear anything, feedback from residents or stakeholders, attend one of those meetings as well as your workshop next week on Tuesday.
So just a couple of things, Ms. Johnson, on a few of the things you mentioned. So our Memorial Day ceremony is at 8 a.m., right?
Yes.
And what time is the county's?
10.
10, and that's at GSB, the Government Services Building?
Yes.
Okay. For the stakeholder meetings, I want to make sure none of us are violating sunshine. So we're permitted to attend those, right?
Yes, they're publicly noticed meetings.
Okay, we just have to be careful as to stating policy positions if there's more than one of us present. Right?
Correct.
Okay, so I just want to make sure.
It's
There
really,
have been some instances in the past, right? I think it was, people didn't mean to violate sunshine, but they went to some of these community events and were speaking about policy when there were multiple council members present. So just want to keep us in the clear. So, okay, anything else?
no, thank you.
All right, may we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.